Ladies and gentlemen, the moment that you have been waiting for has finally arrived. My Twitch died. Run that back. Redo, baby. Ladies and gentlemen, the moment you have been waiting for has finally arrived. We have seen teams battle it out for multiple weeks over the past couple of months, and we finally have come to an exciting conclusion. Dawn Esports, an organization that has many stories to its name, looking for redemption as they are coming back with such a strong season. But Temporal Gaming, newcomers to the scene in Risen Esports, they are now looking to make their mark as well. And only one team will come out alive for that prize of the $780 total pool. We're going to be taking you on that journey. My name is Mark Rafa Alexander Arambide, joined you here on the cast with Steven Return Johnson. And Returned, it's going to be a doozy of a series to get through.
Oh yeah, hopefully get a little bit more action than the Champions League finals over in Madrid, but hopefully the Risen Champions League final be much more entertaining. Like you said, Dawn Esports looking to make a big comeback season from their really sabbatical they took last offseason. Temporal, consistent underdogs. They made it through Semantics in the semis, but now they got to go up against the undefeated Kings here in Dawn Esports. They want to take down the title, but already to see we're 2 picks into game number 1, best of 5. Aatrox still holding that first spot in priority.
Yeah, and Dawn Esports, it would be so poetic for them to be able to finish this entire season out on top, not losing a single series. But it could be equally as poetic if Temporal Gaming were to be the ones to deliver them that first series loss in grand finals here.
Of course, Dawn did in fact lose a game during their run through the playoffs, but like you said, they have not lost a series. They still come here with a perfect series record, like you said. But one of those picks that we wanted to really touch on was the Pike. If you guys saw the pregame, you saw the U.GG highlight on the Pike because T26 is a huge Pike player, and given how much has been going around the map, this could be a very interesting pickup here for the bottom side.
Yeah, T26 is a freaking nasty Pike player, but the thing is that if you look on the other side of the map, Good Sir also, even though he is a last-minute sub coming in for Temporal Gaming, he also has many Pike games under his belt. But I believe we are actually in pro drafts right now, so let's take a quick look over and see, guys. Both of these teams have zoomed through Champion Select already. Aatrox, Sejuani, and Pike have been locked in for Dawn Esports, and Temporal Gaming have answered with the Rise, Sivir, and Lee Sin.
It's going to be interesting to see how draft does fluctuate throughout the season. Of course, we are on 9.11, current patch on the live. And it is all about those flex picks. It's about where do you put the Rise, where do you put the Aatrox? Does Akali, Silas get through? Aurelia, same thing. Yorick, and we very specifically banned away from Temporal Gaming's top laner, Sandwich F2 rather, as he's been a huge impacting factor. But I almost want to hyper focus in here on what we've already seen get picked up, because the jungle matchup, we were talking before, Rafa, and you said this is a high-powered matchup, and now you're starting off with putting Nafe on the Lee Sin.
That's right, a Nafe between the Nidalee and the Lee Sin, which the former was banned away by Dawn Esports, has been picked up here, and he is so incredible on this champion. He has been known to make snowballs and early pressure happen out of thin air, and he can even make Baron steals in the later parts of the game or find those late game plays that you might need to do to salvage the game. Meanwhile, on the other side, Rourke, I mean, this guy plays almost everything. So just because he's picking a tank champion doesn't mean he's just on tank duty. He could be super aggressive on this champion as well.
Well, I mean, it is current meta. It is 9.11, so tank duty does tend to happen once in a while. But already seeing the Aatrox in the top lane being that melee champion, or even the Aatrox, well, it's going to be confirmed. So Dawn maybe confirming my suspicions that it is a top Aatrox. But either way, they have one melee champion already. Sejuani flourishes not only because she's a strong lockdown tank, but her ganks when she has solo laners that are melee are just so damn good. Aatrox, of course, you just increase his ability to stick onto champions, of course, already got the Q, but now Dawn going to be electing for a little bit of a scaling out mid laner here.
And return, I'm not sure if you've seen the new flavor of the month, which is the Camille mid lane, but I believe unless they flex that Camille towards the top side of the map and give Rin the Rise, then more than likely we are looking at a Camille mid lane specifically to counter the Azir. If you guys haven't seen this, watching the LCK or even the LEC, as they have brought it out recently this week as well, this champion, along with the Arcane Comet, can poke out really well, and then kind of just functions as like a better Talon with more lockdown. You shove out the wave with that Tiamat proc, and then you just go roam and boom, gank, gank, gank.
Yeah, and it's all about how much do you want to go and how much can you trade on back. Because, of course, we've seen the previous days when you have Comet on Camille, you are able to trade back against some aggressive lanes back in the day when Camille was just literally the new slice bread in top lane. But the Bladis herself, she has that engage that is just up so much more than Azir's disengages. And if you get to the point where you can consistently lock him down in laning phase, you're looking pretty dang good. But when you look at the rest of the Temporal gaming lineup as well, it's not just this early game that they want to get off to. Now, mind you, Thresh, Lee Sin, even the counterpick with Camille are looking very good, but it's this wave clearing composition core behind them that I think is going to do the heavy lifting.
Absolutely. And it also gives them some temporary relief if they do not get that early foot right. The Sivir wave clear and the Rise wave clear, as you already pointed out, some of the best wave clearing champions in the game. So if you need to go past the 25-30 minute mark, you've got some of the best champions to be able to do so.
Yeah, the only thing I'd be slightly concerned from onside Temporal Gaming about going late is the lack of a straight up frontline tank. And sure, it's not disqualifying for getting a late game win condition. Like, Sivir, Rise are usually very adept at self-peeling. Sivir's got the spell shield. Rise just has phase rush normally, but even so, when you look at the strengths of Dawn, they are pick. It is Sejuani, it is Pyke, it is Aatrox with that extra auto attack for the melee to proc Sejuani. That's going to try to get them through these earlier stages of the game. And if you get to a 50-minute scenario, if you catch out Sivir, if you catch out Rise, and you get one of them down, you can turn that 5v5 into a 4v5 that's very favored, especially as Dawn do have quite a bit of late game on their side as well. Like we said, Azir does quite nice.
Absolutely, and what's also scary when you think about that composition as a whole when it comes to the 5-on-5 team fights that could potentially break out is that you have a lot of burst damage or just constant DPS from the Xayah and the Azir, and even the Aatrox as well if he lands the Darkened Blade sweet spot procs to set up Pyke for those Death from Below resets. And then, as you said before, there's not a traditional frontline to be able to tank and be in the front to be able to allow Temporal Gaming to fight a traditional back-to-front or front-to-back team fighting style. So if one person goes down, then that could be lights out for the rest of that fight.
It certainly could, and I think it is going to really come down to how exactly they do execute here, because we are towards these high levels. Remember, this is the Resistance Champions League, and especially given some recent developments in the amateur scene as of late, you know, the FACEIT tournament being just around the corner, teams really starting to prepare for all that. This is the point to start showcasing what you are, because not only do you need leagues to go ahead and accept you into these tournaments, but the players as well got to be looking out for their own brands, and a win here would be massive. Dawn looking to rebuild, like we said. Kalex has been basically willing this orc back into existence in a continued run with a championship title on the top. Feels like the perfect accumulation to the story.
It would definitely be the icing on the top of the cake here if he can secure this win with this squad that he has rebuilt here, and it would be quite the redemption story as well. But you have to look on the other side for Temporal Gaming. Just because they're rookies and because they have nothing to prove, it just gives them even more fire and hunger to show that, yeah, just because we're rookies to the scene, it doesn't mean that we have what it takes to be able to take the big dogs on top.
Certainly coming around, and yeah, like you said, it is interesting because even looking back to the last round of the semifinals, of course, Dawn very convincingly made it through Datum. Temporal Gaming had to overcome what was a disadvantageous matchup. A lot of people said that Semantic should be prioritized over Temporal in the semifinals. Of course, they did go the distance 3-1, managing the opposite of expectations, but now they're in that same spot, and there's almost a certain calmness to being the underdogs because, like you said, there aren't those expectations on you. If you're Dawn Esports here and you're coming off of a perfect season and you go down game one, the pressure levels go way up. But if you're Temporal Gaming here and you've been the underdogs the whole time through, you're used to making those come from behind victories, it may not be that much of a factor. But of course, it's not just a mental game. It's also what you can do here on the Rift is you should be getting the game pretty shortly.
Absolutely. We are about 30 seconds away from before the normal spectator delay does time in. But before we get to that point, I do want to hone in on the fact that there's nothing to lose here for Temporal Gaming as much when it comes to Dawn Esports. To have that perfect record from the normal split into the playoffs, just to lose it all when the time is most important would be so devastating. And right now at the beginning of the game, I'm sure that the coaching staff has done a great job of being able to mentally prepare both of these players to say, hey, you know what, just treat it like any other game, at the beginning. And so most of these players are coming in with a fresh mindset. But depending on how game one goes and how well they're able to recuperate and adapt to the later part of the series, then that mentality could be a factor.
It certainly will be, and I'm curious to see how these picks do sort of fluctuate throughout the season. All right, throughout the best of 5, because that's what it is. Best of 5 is a marathon of matches. You have to keep adapting strategies. Doesn't matter what happens game 1 if your strat just gets knocked down games 2, 3, and 4. And I think a lot of that for Dawn is going to be revolving around this mid lane. The Azir for game number 1, sure, it's a pretty decent matchup here. And if everything's panning out as we see it here on our screens in front of us, it does look like Rennie will be taking the Rise into the mid lane matchup versus Azir. Camille into the top lane. So I think this one makes a little bit more meta sense. I think that Camille certainly, maybe we'll see a little bit later, but I want to see what Freeze can do on this Azir, because especially traditionally in the North American amateur scene, Azir is one of those champions where you have to be comfortable on this. There are so many individual mechanics. Knowing when to stream a shuffle, knowing when to reposition during a fight, and knowing when you can just let loose with your damage is so focused on if you can actually pull it off. Are you comfortable on this champion? And some of our, amateur players have had that before. Strumpus, Ligo being kind of the two big ones for me. But if you don't got it, you really don't got it. So Freeze, if he does well today, if he does well right now in this first matchup, that's something that Temporal are going to have to adapt to. But if not, I don't know if I put him on it again.
Right. And I love how you say not necessarily knowing how to do the Shurima Shuffle, but knowing when to do. Because I think we have all had those experiences when we've had the quote-unquote highly mechanical player going in for a play, but it's the wrong time to make that play. Whenever the Lee Sin goes in and tries to flash Insec a huge super fed tank right into your backline, it's like, that play was crisp, but you kind of destroyed our whole team fight right there. So
it makes for a great clip, and you just cut it off before you lose the game. That's right. The secret there with the Lee Sin.
Well, guys, we are getting into the Rift right now. We're going to take a quick intermission so we are all synced up on everyone's ends, but don't tune away. Game 1 will be coming your way. Ladies and gentlemen, we are on the rift for Game 1 between Dawn Esports and Temporal Gaming. And it looks like we might have some aggressive level 1 strategies coming out from Dawn as 4 members move through the top side of the jungle.
Yeah, with Sejuani and Pyke especially, they have a lot of lockdown in these early levels. Aatrox provides the damage, and CP Freeze, he maybe just feel alone for the ride, but either way, you're actually seeing a split engage, both sides invading on the opponent's red buff nearly at the same time too.
Now it comes down to what kind of vision can both teams get. We already saw a red ward being placed on the Raptor camp on the bot side of the map. And this ward is going to actually go into the bush directly here. So different information is going to come in for both teams.
And of course, remember that we are post 9.10. We are on the 3-minute 15 Scuttle Crab spawning time. So that gives a lot more, availability for junglers to go on ahead, spend some more time dealing with their pathing. And something to note as well is that both junglers, starting their blue sides, won't be going for the Korean Krug strat, so no one's just going to be sitting on the Krug the entire game, but may actually lead to a little bit of interesting mid lane play here, as both junglers should be looking to go ahead, clear their sides, and then move towards the middle of that map.
I would imagine, though, that Nathan Rin should have the upper advantage in the 2v2, while Rourke does have the Aftershock, Sejuani's not the best fighter in the early levels, but definitely can power up once she does get to that level 6.
Ooh, good pull on the bottom side. It's T26 already getting some big trades here in the bottom lane. And remember, Bonafide Guest is going, of course, with the standard 1 potion plus the Dorn's Blade. So just having this advantage over the double CC lane, or having the health advantage with the double CC lane, just emphasizes how much kill pressure is here between these two. Right.
We actually already see Remy having to chuck a pot early in the top lane, or if he just didn't buy one. I don't remember at the beginning of the game, but Sandvich having quite a decent lane advantage in terms of sustain already in this Camille Aatrox matchup. And we weren't, of course, expecting the Camille into the top lane. We kind of thought it was going to be going mid lane, but so far it seems like it's working out.
Yeah, and interesting to note, Sandwich does go for the press the attack here, so is focusing on those short trades, not quite short as the Comet was, where you just press 1W, but not quite as long as, of course, taking Conquer, and it all does go back to exactly what changes have been happening in Aatrox, is now with the change to the ultimate, he's much more of a scaling pickup there, he's better in the mid to late game, so maybe even giving room for Sandwich to dominate this early game a little bit more so. And speaking of domination, looking at these junglers have basically passed like ships in the night here to each other's sides of the jungle. Is will be being onto the blue side. Good hook.
Nice play as well. He's going to get some chunk damage on the T26, but he does have that passive, so dips back into the bush, is able to sustain a little bit of that health back here. But talking about the jungle paths here returned, as you already mentioned before, Nave has been able to successfully not only take the blue buff, but most of the top side of the jungle against Rourke.
Yeah, they are going for quite an advantage. Napier with the straight up advantage as far as that goes. Sandwich in the top lane finds some beautiful trading, and you really are feeling the difference in runage up here. Sandwich, when you go for those quick trades, when you're able to proc press the attack, you're basically guaranteed to outtrade Remy, because you also have that passive shield, and Remy can't really break through that until he hits some item spikes. So expect this lane to stay very much the same up here. In fact, maybe coming up to lay down some justice as well.
Yeah, he was planning on recalling right here, but as soon as he sees the chunk damage going down on a Remy, he thinks that maybe there's a possibility for the dive, but
no.
He's going to recall on that one. Says, you know what, let me get some items first before we make that dive happen.
Yeah, that's a very safe play, but I actually put that on hold here. Mid lane, a few things floating down around, and that thing being the Sejuani. Not quite going to be able to find the gank, but in the top lane, I don't know if he meant to, but Remy holding that wave outside of the tower meant that there was no room for Nafe to dive. It would have been too risky. You're not playing Elise. You don't have a tower aggro reset, so they're going to go ahead and back off that one at the end of the day. Nafe, though, wait, Reddy's actually stopped that back. They're electing into the 2v2, but...
Ooh, and Rourke might be caught out here. The Lee Sin Sonic Wave is going to come in, and there is the first blood for Nathan Temporal Gaming.
I thought that was going to be a little bit aggressive, as I would have expected Riddick and Nave to prefer the 2v1, but they have so much power in this early game. They have so much confidence in Nave's ability to play this Lee Sin that they stop the recall. They keep Rourke there, and they know that the Lee Sin just hard out trades that in the one-on-one matchup. And great execution between the mid laner and jungler here from Temporal Gaming. That's going to give them the first blood of the series.
Savage has got to be careful trying to trade aggressively in here. Yeah, he wins the 101s, but he's fighting in a very huge creep wave here, and Remy might just take the advantage all the way. Goes in for the flash and forces Savage's flash as well.
And there you're seeing the other side of the coin. When you fight long enough that Remy is able to proc the Conqueror, that's where Aatrox starts coming through a bit. Should it be enough to get some kills in the early game here? Probably not, until we see some Ice Spikes come through, but it is enough to command respect in the lane. And if Savage uses that E in a strange way, that's where you can see some advantage coming through here. T26 continuing to put down damage here, but Nave in the mid lane.
Oh, CP3 is taking a lot of damage from the Sonic Wave and the Rise Q. He's going to throw out the Shuffle, but it doesn't really do much as both of the champions and Nafe and Rin are able to just flash over the wall.
And that is a big Summoner Spell blow right there that, you know, I would expect Rourke to try to find something back here in the coming minutes, but now under tower, T26.
Oh, T26 gotta be careful. Boomerang! Bam! Better duck, baby, because T26 is going down.
And that is exactly the hand in the cookie jar moment that they were looking for. Now in the top lane, both top laners have reached level 6.
And Nafe is here. He has been almost everywhere save for bot lane, but that might be his next destination as Remy does take Nafe quite low, but Savage finally coming in with the Hextech ultimatum will seal the kill onto Remy.
In this early game, it is just absolutely falling apart for Dawn Esports. Sure, they have the scaling elements, but between Aatrox, between Pyke, and between Sejuani, they have these early game playmaking elements. They need to be focused on maintaining the dissonance away from Nafe. They need to be concentrating on keeping Nafe out of this early game. And like you just seen right there, 3 of the first 4 kills he's been involved in. Huge playmaking across the board. T26, though, maybe looking for something, doesn't find anything just yet, but these are some very decent leads already established here, and if Temporal Gaming can use these, hit some of those first item spikes, and then use those double pushing lanes in the ADC and mid lane matchups to go ahead, rotate around, and knock down these towers, that's what Temporal's going to be looking for in these next few minutes to start to put this one out of reach.
Oh, T26. You can tell how desperate he is to try and find a play here, but Rin didn't even have flash, and he just simply sidesteps the attempted flash hook from T26.
Remy may be in a lot of trouble here. No ultimate available, and here comes Nave, lands the Q.
And he's going to come over the wall. Remy does have the dash here, but he's going to get kicked into the wall. And without the ultimate, the world ender, he's not going to get the extra lifesteal. And that's just an easy dive for both Nafe and Savage to be able to take down the kill.
And that is some clinical execution there from Nafe. Knows exactly that Remy's moving up into the bottom, into that top side no vision area, and that's what you can't be doing when you have zero idea where Lee Sin is. You need to treat it like it's everywhere, and unfortunately Remy doesn't quite respect that. Nave finds a beautiful way to get in over the wall, unwarded completely once again, and Dawn's lack of early game pressure, including now their lack of vision control on the map, and therefore the lack of respect for the lack of vision control, is really costing them here, and there's not too much more ground they can give as they're nearly already 3k down. And I don't even think there's a tower plate down this just yet. This is all purely CS. This is all purely straight up kills. And if you can expand this now to include a few plates, the game may just be over.
Yeah, and save for the kind of isolated kill and the bot side of the map, Nape has been involved in every single kill that Temporal Gaming has, but on the top side of the map, Remy is actually opting in for the 1v1. It's not a 1v1, it's a 2v1, all debated, all part of the plan. Rourke is going to come in and try to even the odds.
And Rourke able to find a path into the top lane that is unseen with vision, and Sandwich maybe letting the last bit of success really get to the head, but Camille in the early game is not truly a killing. You're still looking to be that split first threat. You're still looking for the Triforce plus TMX combination, and the lack of respect on there and a good movement up from Rourke does give something back. And speaking of tower plates, first of the game going to be falling here for Dawn as they do get not only 1 but 2 top lane plates, but treat it back on the bottom side as Nafe not going to be caught sleeping.
Yeah, and this actually swings Remy's individual gold lead right back even with Sandvich, so he's not going to be far down against this lane as much as he was before when Nafe was putting the pressure early on, but Sandvich, now without the ultimate, is going to opt to try and take this one onto Remy, but he does have the Conqueror stacks stacked all the way up, so Remy, he is ensuring that Sandvich cannot fully all-in him quite yet, but Savage just needs to have better control of these trades so that he knows, you know, we go back to what you said, the pressy attack is for short bursts. It's not for fully extended all-ins. Unless if you have the Conqueror, then we wouldn't have this conversation.
Exactly, and it's even just the champions once again because you have more tools in the kit of Aatrox to keep a fight going. Those Qs will absolutely chunk if you're able to land all 3 of them in a row, and Sandvich doesn't really have all the tools he needs to get out of a bad situation, and of course that is going to be forcing Sandvich to take another back. Remy and Sandvich both having TP up right now. Sandvich will be playing conservatively enough to hold on to that, as you can see with our glorious new objective timer. By the way, one of the best things Ryan's done to the spectator client in a long time. Dragon, of course, is already off the board. Herald still being up. And with Roki being seen here on that bot lane try, they're already just moving straight in.
T26 is going to try to interrupt the Spotify, his recall here. And by the way, guys, Spotify Guest 27 is Ivy Garden. Just had a name change, but you know, if we refer to him as Ivy or if we refer to him as Villas, it's the same guy. Just for future reference, it does stop the recall, and it looks like T26 is going to try to roam for Rourke, try to get some vision in the bot side jump.
They need to find something back because that Herald can be massive for Temporal Gaming for breaking open some of these towers or claiming some of these plates. No knowledge yet on exactly where Rourke is. Could stay the hand of this top lane, and they need to be careful because this is still a top lane that could easily be swayed one way or another, as the item advantage just isn't quite there yet. But it seems like cooler heads have prevailed now. Good sir, good try to show that he is the best hook champion on the game.
Death Sentence misses, Bone Skewer does land, but the Phantom Undertow will allow T26 to escape the 2v1, as CP Freeze wanted to go for the recall.
Yeah, it looks like dominance maybe not quite asserted on the mid lane play. Going wide, it's the zoning queue, naturally speaking. But speaking of the bottom lane, you are getting some important spikes here of Spotify Guest. For Sivir, it's all about how efficiently can you wave there. Your boomerang, your ricochet just melts waves left and right, and when you are able to get up to that Essence Reaper, not only do you have the mana control, but now Spotify Guest gotta be careful.
He flashes away, but the Bone Skewer from the death from below. The Ignite will take the Lantern. Will it be enough to be able to save him? T26 and Remy are on the run. The Realm Warp comes in, and that's going to buy him enough time, even with the pots ticking. Ivy Guard is going to be able to survive.
That is ludicrous. You're even seeing some of the nerves come into play because T26 just throws the ultimate so early. And not only does that A not allow someone to get the double gold, like you only get double gold if somebody dies either A from the Pike ultimate or B while the Pike ultimate is channeling, but just misses it altogether. And it's gonna be pretty big to let Spotify get out of that one. Hook goes wide, but now Nate up in the top lane knows exactly where everyone else is, and this should easily be first tower.
Yeah, they're punishing the fact that Remy burned his teleport to try and make that bot play happen, and because Remy has to take the long walk of shame back to the top lane, he does prevent the turret from falling early, but they've gotten all 5 turret plates, so that will be all the gold that they wanted to get out of it as CP Freeze trying to lock down Rin as they're now coming in. Kick lands. If Freeze is going to go down eventually, but with the shuffle, he's able to push them back. But Rin is going to be able to flash over and live, trying to run with the shield, but he's going to now go down to T26. Remy in a 1v2 against Sandvich and Nape is going to force both of them to run, and T26 is now on the hunt. He doesn't have Death from below, but he does have a Bone Skewer, and he does have a Phantom Undertow if he can land them in tandem, and it will land as Sandvich, even with the try attempt of the hook shot, he will not escape.
And it's even more unfortunate for Temporal Gaming here because Good Sir spent all that time trying to counter the roam out of T26 and quite frankly isn't going to do anything up here, leaving bot lane in a actually terrible space as they're going to be going down here quite aggressively. No mana left for Spotify.
Oh, and Kanki just has everything that he needs to be able to take this one down. And the Berserker Freeze with the extra attack speed allows him to win that 1v1. Rourke, can he get out? No Ignite there, or Skirmisher Saber is not going to be able to burn him down, and he's going to be able to escape.
Here comes Sandvich trying to clean up things on the back end here, but he doesn't have ultimate.
Yeah, the action never stops here, Return. I mean, you know what it is here at Risen Esports. Everyone just wants to fight and prove their dominance here as Nape finds the Sonic Wave. He's going to go in for the Resonating Strike onto T26. He's going to go under turret. There's nowhere for him to go. Nape 3-0-3 on this Lee Sin.
Yeah, Nate may be doing quite well here, but that will now be second brick actually in a row going for Dawn Esports. They got the top tower, they got the bot tower, and that was an absolute collapse of the Temporal Gaming playstyle right there. They throw everything into that top play. Reddy dies because he's unable to execute down on TP Freeze. Don't get me wrong, that first set of plays outside of the Herald, especially with Nate kicking Freeze through the line trying to kill him immediately, it was done well. but the follow-up rotation was in favor for Dawn. This is one of the advantages of having the Pike. He just goes incredibly fast. You have the mobility boost, you have the W, so you're able to roam through these fights a little bit quicker now.
Oh, wait, T26 finding the pick on the Rin. Nape and Goodsir are here, but the death from below is going to find the shutdown on the Nape, and even the Realm Warp will save Rin, but a Goodsir was not able to get the party bus ride out of there, and he will also go down.
Yeah, moving on through here, and with that, some big shutdown gold. Roki may not be done yet. Sees Rin right around the corner. Rin going to be able to get out of dodge at the end of the day. Mid tower not going to be given the same fate here as Dawn moves into the lead for the first time in the game. Now it looks like they are wholeheartedly in control of this one. CP Freeze, also need to note, has gone for Luden's Echo instead of the Nashor's Tooth, so is prioritizing some damage now rather than straight up what's the greatest late game build I could possibly accomplish. So that will be moving the power spikes here from Dawn Esports even closer. And with a huge swing of gold coming their way, I expect to see some items being finished pretty soon.
Yeah, rather than the sustained, consistent DPS over an extended fight, he's just going for the 1-2 punch of the Conquering Stands, looking for that burst with the Luden's Echo proc. That will definitely allow them to turn around some of these fights, since on the other side of the coin here, a lot of Temporal Gaming's early lead and advantage has come from just that surprising amount of burst damage, whether it's from Rin locking down someone for Nape to be able to follow up with a Resonating Strike into Sonic Wave Resonating Strike. But now, this is the first time that we've seen the lead that Temporal Gaming have and amounted for the first 15 minutes of the game finally fallen.
Yep.
And you almost prefaced this return as, because you were talking about how Dawn Esports, just because they're losing the early game now, doesn't mean that they're out of it quite yet.
No, certainly not. And of course, Xayah does have some excellent scaling in the ADC role. Has been playing fantastically at ADC right now for Dawn Esports, and I'm very curious to see if that can continue into the team fighting phase. But now in bottom lane, Rin is all alone, going to be pulled out of danger, but here comes Knave.
Talked about this story before, but the 2v2 is going to try and come in for fruition here. Nape could potentially get the kill in the T26, but he's not going to burn enough from the Skirmisher Sabers, and Remy is going to be able to sway them off. Going in for the Darkened Blade. One more Q is going to land. The Glacial Prison comes out just for safekeeping, as Nape is going to have to take the Dark Passage to safety and leave his comrade.
And this is the flipping of what you saw before from Temporal Gaming. Why they got ahead was because Nave was dictating when these fights started. Nave was dictating, okay, Rookie's in bottom lane, boom, let's throw something topside. But now Dawn Esports are the one that are initiating these plays. They're the ones rolling up to the fights with T26. And now, instead of being able to trade something for nothing in a disadvantageous position for TPG, they're just losing. Like, they lost that bot fight, they went down a kill, and sure, it wasn't a huge explosion for Dawn to get that one kill, but there was nothing gone in as response, and that is what you need to be trading for right now. You need to be trading for the late game. You need to be trading for your double carries to really start to carry you through, and they're really starting to let their foot off the gas pedal right now.
And I think the biggest indicator of that is the fact that when you look at Kanki, he has 2 fully completed items along with the Berserker Greaves. Spotify guest, aka Ivy Garden, just barely finished his tier 2 boots. He still doesn't have the extra crit from the rapid fire or whatever item he wants to opt into as his second. So he's not only going to be severely behind in wave clear ability, but also safety and DPS in these fights.
True, and if you are a Sivir player, if you're looking really to carry through here, you want to get to the point where you have your Infinity Edge, you want that extra chunk of damage. And now Dawn Esports just starting to apply the pressure. I think it's going to be coming to a bit more of a accumulation around Baron. If Dawn can dictate those fights, I think that Baron is very successfully theirs. I think that's how I looked at the fight, but now Savage coming on in.
And Savage using the Hexic Ultimatum with the flash. Rin is also flashing forward. They take him down. CP Freeze. This might be the fight that they were looking for to take him down. Remy is coming now to the party lane, but Warp will not fall quite yet as Remy does find the Darkened Blade on the 3 members. And the Realm Warp will save Temporal Gaming from what could have been a disastrous turnaround. They started off that fight strong, but Dawn Esports were able to turn around some of that fight.
Yeah, and if it wasn't for a fantastic Realm Warp away, Rinny would not have saved Temporal Gaming there. That was a clean reset ready to happen for Remy. And, you know, I applaud the aggression for Sandwich to say, all right, we need to engage now. We need to stop letting Dawn dictate the pace of this game. They don't really have the tools to follow back up right now. Rini has the damage, but hasn't been as crisp on the execution on the Rise as you'd like to. Rise is still, sure, in the olden days, it was just a face smashing on the keyboard champion where you could just press a bunch of abilities and it doesn't matter where you're looking. Nowadays, you need to make sure you're comboing through, you're hitting your Qs on your E's, you're getting damage down. And too many times now in some of these team fights, it hasn't been as crisp as it needed to be. It's been miffing a few Qs, all that kind of stuff. And when you're throwing team fights this aggressively, as Dawn are hitting a lot of their power spikes right now, that is a risky proposition to make, because if you start losing these team fights, Baron is gone. Those T2 towers are gone, and there may be no coming back in game 1.
Yeah, you just cannot toy around with the power of an Azir and Isaiah on these turrets once it does get to that point in the game. You know, a lot of ability power on Freeze is going to allow him to demolish them, along with Isaiah being able to have the extra damage from the W as well. So these next few fights from Temporal Gaming, they need to establish some type of reverse momentum here, or being able to secure some type of lead to be able to get back into this game, because if they continue getting run over, then Dawn Esports is going to run away with the rest of the game.
And this is preferably the point in the game when Temporal Gaming want to be falling back on their side lane. Rin plus Sandwich with the Rise plus Camille combo make up a very, very aggressive split pushing comp. But that's also where you can see the lengthy pike come into fruition because it's so mobile. But now in the bottom lane, Remy seeing a 2v1.
Crap. Sandwich, even in the 1v1, the lifesteal coming out from Remy was being able to equalize some of the trades, but he's still opting in for it as Rourke has already expended the Glacial Prison. He's going to try to go for it. The Hextech ultimatum locks down Remy, and he uses his hook shot to be able to escape. He's just playing with these two.
Ultimate blown in the mid lane as well, spotted by Guest. Ooh. Almost an aggressive engagement for a Sandwich, but it looks like he's just testing the waters. And that movement down to the bottom side for Rourke is going to buy the side of Temporal Gaming a little bit more room when it comes to playing around this Baron division. But as far as side lane split push goes, your split pusher can only be as effective as the vision you have around him. And Rourke found a way to get on in, doesn't find the kill, which is incredibly unfortunate now for Dawn, as they were hoping to find kind of the play that breaks the camel's back on the other team, but still, with all these split pushing lanes, with all the scaling going on the sides, if Temporal Gaming can lock this down to where you know where Rourke is, you can get your side lane split isolated into one-on-one split push situations, they have some room. But Dawn, if they take like one card out of the deck of cards and it comes crumbling down, they're going to be very happy at the result.
Absolutely, and then talking about that vision line, right now it's only extended as far as the river, so that's why Sandwich wasn't able to push up as successfully, since Rourke can just come from his safety of his own jungle to be able to make that 2v1 happen. But if the rest of Temporal Gaming is able to successfully and safely push that vision line deeper into Dawn Esports' jungle, then that split pushing can work out in their favor.
I'm also a little bit disappointed here because they made that play to the bottom side to get some vision, but it's not deep enough yet. If you're going to give priority off the Baron, you need to make it worth it. We'll have to see whether Sandwich is going to be able to keep this push going now that basically the bot lane river has a red carpet rolled out onto it, where everyone has knowledge. Interesting call for a siege in mid lane, as I still feel like Sivir, kind of just looking at the wave, may disqualify the ability to go here and wave clear out. So curious to see whether Dawn actually look to siege this, or what I might suspect is they're looking to dive.
Yeah, but the side of Temporal Gaming, they do have teleport advantage. That's why Remy is moved up here. He doesn't have his own teleport to be able to match the split push. Second tier turret does go down, but it might buy time for Temporal Gaming to as they do secure the first turret on the bottom side of the map.
Yeah, and this is the price you pay when you don't have a tank in the front line, because with that, like we said before, so many tools to disengage. Good Sir may have decided some death warrants.
Good Sir just steps up way too far forward, and he's going to take the blunt edge of the Darkened Blade as he goes down.
You still have the split pusher on the bottom side, so there is still some amount of pressure here for Temporal Gaming. But being down to 45 is not the situation you want to be when Baron is on the table. Do they look to the steal? Do they look to the fight? Or do they look to keep the push going? That is the question here.
Realm Warper comes in as a bait. Remy's going to go over the wall, try to buy time as Spotlight Guess, aka Ivy Garden, is going to go down. Nave, can you be the hero? Can you make the Baron steal happen? But the rest of Dawn Esports are not going to even give him the chance as they come over the wall and they take down the Blind Monk. But as long as Rin can buy enough time for the rest of Sandwich to maybe get some structure damage. Rin does take down one in the CP freeze, but he does fall to the rest of the squad. It's Sandwich trying to make something out of this Baron attempt. He's going to have to sacrifice himself surely for the inhibitor. He successfully gets it. Does he have the hookshot to be able to get out safely? He's got one hookshot out, but the Darkened Blade catches him once. The flash, both being traded by both top laners. Rourke doesn't have Glacial Prism, but it might come up just in time. But another hookshot into the Blast Cone plant will allow Sandwich to escape.
And that right there was all started by the Thresh equivalent of Lee Syndrome. You see somebody, you want to hook somebody, but realistically for Temporal Gaming, you do not need to make a play right there. Sandwich is your pressure. Good Sir stepping up to Q, locks him in place, it lets the other team get the engage, and all of a sudden, Dawn fantastically find the way going on through. And remember that Good Sir is that substitute who came on in, so maybe a little bit of communication issue, but either way, what's done is done, and what we can say for certain is that Baron is very firmly in the grasp of Dawn Esports. Temporal Gaming at least able to open up the map a little bit and secure this bottom side. Interesting to see, though, Dawn are electing to push out the bottom lane despite the fact that they're pushing against super minions, maybe trying to even out that bot lane inhibitor advantage and really even up that advantage which is gained at the hands of Sandwich and company.
And Sandwich is already electing to split on the top side of the map. He understands that in a 5v5 they just don't win, and they might have to just make a sacrifice and just give what they can. Good Sir does proc the Aftershock with the play, but it's not going to stop the rest of Dawn Esports going in for the charge, as now the Darkened Blade comes in, Glacial Prison lands on the Rin, or Spotify gets 27, he's going to lock him down, but Sandwich has actually teleported apparently to his own death, trying to fight back with the rest of his team. It is now a 4-on-5 in favor of Dawn Esports, so looking for the inhibitor, but they're also fighting back. They're showing strength against Temporal Gaming. Health bar members are kind of low here for Dawn Esports, so they're going to elect to walk out of the base for now and be happy with what they've taken.
And I'll give you one for free here. Returns guide to playing top lane. If you are not a full tank member, do not, and I repeat, do not teleport in the middle of 5 enemy members. And I don't even think that realistically, Sandwich got to play the game there. He goes from position of strength on the split push, coming to this bottom lane, and it needed to be a much earlier call. If you were going to throw that TP, you need to defend that tower. You need to be saying, this is worth giving up our pressure on top side, defending this bottom lane. If you're going to give up the inhibitor anyway, why not grab their inhibitor as well? And maybe it comes to the point of we think they're going to end the game, but either way, not a great call one way or another, and that's going to open up the room for Dawn once again to shut down that split push. Sandwich no longer has the teleport to answer anything back now, and if they can find a way to blow the teleport at a Rin, there is no more split pushing coming out for Temporal Gaming, and that is crippling.
Right, and then because they lost that bot inhibitor without potentially trading for that second tier turret or even the inhibitor turret on the other side of the map, Sandwich is now relegated to split against the inhibitor that he just took down 2-3 minutes ago. So a lot of that split push pressure that he had gained potentially for Temporal Gaming is now thrown down the gutter.
There is no reason to be in this bot lane right now. You should be in the mid lane. If you want to try to split push, sure, you're close to where the team is. You don't have teleport. You can't get to a fight. The only thing you can do here is try to end the game, and I will give you a return guarantee. You ain't going to end the game right here. All they can do is hope that there's some pressure coming back, but even so, Dawn are actually taken aback by it. They throw Remy back. Of course, TP advantage still means that they have the ability to take a fight here, but either way, we're not going to be able to push any further, as it seems like our Baron play is going to be falling by the wayside. 2 minutes now until next Baron.
Sandwich is moving up towards the mid side of the map. I don't know if he's going to find a successful pick, but they pinged out T26. If he goes in for the kill, he has the X-Tech ultimatum, but T26 does sniff something funky in the waters here, and he's going to recall under the safety of his own tower.
You're going to be able to come on back here, and now more time for Temporal Gaming to start stemming the bleeding here. Do know with the inhibitors coming back up that blue side bot lane inhibitor should be coming up pretty soon, so Dawn shouldn't have to worry about that for too much longer. Temporal Gaming's a bit of a different story, and still Sandwich not having that TP for about another 2 minutes is going to be very impactful around this Baron fight in. That means that Dawn, when they roll up to this fight, They want to start now, but Nate's just going over the wall.
Oh, he finds the pick on the Remy. Can they burst him down fast enough? The lifesteal is going to come in, but it's not going to be enough. Spotify Guest 27 does end up trading his life for Remy's. 80 carry down for top laner. Is the trade going to be worth it for Temporal Gaming? That is the question as Rin does get pulled in by the Bone Cure, and there's no way that he can survive. He had already burned the flash, and he's going to get taken down by Kanki, and now it's a 4-on-3 trying to defend in favor of Temporal Gaming. Surely they're going to lose this inhibitor.
Yeah, and the wave clear's all dead. There's nothing stopping them outside of this mid lane inhibitor tower. Bot lane still hasn't crashed on in yet, but I don't think they have the pressure here without Remy to go ahead and end, but they will gladly take that second inhibitor, and more undisciplined play for Temporal Gaming does end up catching them at the end. Dawn, they showed the patience to allow Temporal Gaming to make that mistake, and they benefit in droves for it. Baron should be on the board here now in 20 seconds. Savage, no TP. And huge item spikes now coming out across. Zaya's about to be on 4 crit items. Zaya is on 4 crit items. She will just rip you through now. You're getting to late game Azir, who will just win every fight. And more importantly, you have the frontline threat here from Dawn. So you couldn't ask for a more perfect setup now for the late game. 8k in advantage. Baron coming up shortly. Split pusher with no TP going against a Baron wave. It's all coming up fantastic.
For Dawn Esports, at least. For Temporal Gaming, we're going to have to watch potentially this Baron fall once again to Dawn Esports, as they have complete vision control of it. Even the ward that is in there is being controlled, but now a control ward will come over the wall. Nate, can you be the hero? He's made Baron steals before on this Risen Esports channel, but it's not going to come in today as he gets taken down by the death from below. The fight has been scattered out. Rin is trying to look for the 1v1 onto TP Freeze. He's going to swap the Sonya's Hourglass to try and prevent some time. Webby with the flash finds the Darkened Blade onto Rin, but Savage is on a rampage terror. He's trying to look for more kills, but it's not going to be enough. He did take down Kanki, but 4 members surely should be strong enough to end the game right here.
And they're gonna run it on down. The only member left is Spotify Guest, and they have no summoner spells available to keep this game alive. And just like that, it looks like Dawn. Huge come from behind victory, but they will find it nevertheless.
Remy, Rourke, T26, and CP Freeze just corralling these Baron minions into the base. And Ivy Garden, all he can do is just watch and tear. And Nape and Goodsir have come up in time. It's going to be super close. They're trying to get the damage down, but it's not going to be enough. The attack speed is too much. And game 1 goes over to Dawn Esports.
There is a lot to take away from game 1 here of our Risen Champions League finals. First thing you have to take away is that Dawn are really damn good at playing the macro. Once it got to mid game, once it got to late, they were so consistent at controlling those mid-game fights. They weren't just allowing Temporal Gaming to take that double split push strategy like they had set up. They were taking control. They were waiting for Temporal to miss position, and they were taking control. And that, quite frankly, is what granted them the majority of that game. Now, and on top of that, fantastic performances here from the Zaya, and it's looking great. What you can take away from the other side, though, is Temporal Gaming. Nave is a damn good jungler, especially on the Lee Sin, but there are too many mistakes going into the mid game, and it just soiled the advantages they had gained early.
Absolutely, and there's definitely things that Temporal Gaming have to look at in this second draft as we get ready for game 2 to see what kind of adaptations they're going to be making. And those questions will be answered soon as we take a much needed intermission, as that was one hell of a way for the series to open up. But don't leave yet, folks, because we got more League of Legends actions coming your way. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back into game 2, starting with the draft, and both teams have just started right away. Yasuo and Silas being taken off the table to open up this draft phase.
Certainly, and of course, something to note here is that Temporal Gaming, Dawn, switching sides. Temporal Gaming is on blue side this time around, and I think you're going to be seeing some very deep changes to the draft strategy here. Dawn, in the red spot, is given the responsibility of getting that last ban, and it dictates what Temporal can pick up first. The Aatrox, Sejuani, the solo laners, the Ryze, all that kind of stuff still up and on the board. Akali still floating around. Aurelia not floating around as much now. She was banned away. But I am still focusing right now on what Dawn want to ban in their last rotation. Because I'm thinking the Lee Sin, because if you let that run wild again, maybe it's going to put you down. But no, they're not scared of it this time around. Temporal, though, going to be flexing out of support.
And they do pick up the Pyke here after banning away the Aatrox from Remy. They recognize that despite all the pressure that went towards that top side on the map, Remy was still able to be contributing to the rest of the team fights and the rest of the game, and even turning around some of those 1v1s against Savage. So, but the Pyke being locked in, taken away from T26, could be going to Good Sir, maybe somewhere else?
Yeah, we have been seeing the Pyke move around a lot, but one of the strongest parts about Pyke is his mobility. The ability to press W, not only go invisible, but especially once you have something like the mobility boots, you are really fast. You can get down to a bot lane 1v1, you can get up to a top lane 1v1 as quick as you may, and hopefully we'll be seeing if Temporal Gaming want to use that to buffen up their early game that, quite frankly, started to fall off towards those later stages of the laning phase. Dawn, though, very tanky, engaged CC that we expected out of them game number 1. They're showing the same thing game number 2.
And Nautilus is someone that works so damn well with Sejuani. On top of being able to be another melee champion to get those permafrost stacks up, Nautilus just brings so much damn crowd control himself to the table, including his passive. But Temporal Gaming, Nave says, you know what? Give me the Lee Sin again. Let's run that back. This time, we're going to come out on top.
This early game draft actually tells you so much, because Dawn basically already saying, unless Temporal draft a beef tank in the top lane, in which case Dawn, wink wink, maybe we start banning those tanks away, there is no way that Temporal is going to be able to hold up in a teamfight scenario. And Dawn, they're taking away the safe saver pick. They get 2 bans to knock down ADCs, to knock down top laners. And if Dawn want to elect to do the exact same thing they did last game, congratulations, have a Nautilus as well. And Temporal, if they're going to be going with this strategy, they really need early game to work. You need to make sure that not only does, the early game advantage come through from Nafe, you need to roll that into your first few fights, and don't give those crazy one-off fights that basically gave Dawn back the game like you did in game number 1.
Exactly. Once they get that snowball lead going, they need to continue rolling that ball up so it actually gets bigger and bigger, to the point that Dawn Esports just get overwhelmed with that amount of pressure, and TPG can then close out the game. But this time around, the early game draft looks somewhat similar. Pyke for the Thresh, then pretty much this is a carbon copy of what the composition was looking like. The Azir is going to be the first thing off the table. They did not like dealing with that potential wave clear and amount of damage in team fighting away from CP freeze, as Dawn
The Azir not only has been rising in popularity, but it is still a good counter into the Ryze matchups. Ryze has quite frankly been pretty oppressive in the meta as of late. You can blind pick it into nearly any lane, and you're going to survive. You're going to farm. It's almost like what Vladimir was a patch or 2 ago. You just sustain, you clear, and then eventually you win the game because you got team fight. Speaking of which, Vladimir's not going to be able to make it through either. And with that, Dawn are going to have to find a different route to this one. I think with Sivir plus Nautilus Sejuani, you already have a fantastic team fighting squad. Maybe you look at the top lane and say, hey, we should get somebody that shuts down some of the split push. Maybe we get someone that's a bit more on that aggressive end, as none of those bans were thrown to the top side, and all of them were thrown to the ADC position.
Still a couple of flex picks that are available for Dawn if they don't want to show their hand.
I like this.
They're going to say that they're going to want to save the counter pick for Remy in the top lane. And, he did very well, surprisingly, with that blind pick and getting so much pressure that I agree with them on this move.
And this could be very telling if Temporal Gaming want to go ahead and take a support that shows that Pyke is going to the top lane, basically. Could be going to the mid lane if Ryze wants to flip up that way, but if this Alistar does come through, that's exactly what you're expecting. And they're going to at least hold it on. They still got the second pick, so they're going to have to show it anyway. But with Dawn, they're holding this counter pick for the top lane. They're seeing what matchup they're going into. If it's going to be a Pyke, they're going to know it's a Pyke. And if it is a Pyke, I think you just look for something that's just going to be able to hold up in the laning phase. Pyke is so good with the aggressive mid to late game, but if you can shut him out in the early game, you can really get running. But we'll have to see exactly if that's a strategy Temporal want to go for. As we got a few more seconds, and no, it is the Pyke on support, so exactly like we saw, but they're going to be trying to buff up their front line with Dr. Mundo, but still the playmaking is very reliant on individual mechanics right now.
Yeah, and normally if you were looking at the rest of Esports, and a lot of them had very heavy magic damage or physical damage focused compositions, then maybe you could bait them out. It's like, well, if you don't pick a magic damage right here, then you're gonna not have a very full profile for your team composition. But they have the Orion in the mid lane.
I don't believe that's actually going to be a Galio pick, by the way. That was locked into the literal last second.
It is,
so it might have just been an auto pick. It is a Jax. That makes a lot of sense, and I really like the Dom composition now. Yeah, it's looking pretty rough now for Temporal Gaming. Pyke going into a Nautilus Severe lane, like, they're kind of asking to get locked down. Of course, if you do have some ganks coming through, there's still the option for Nave to come down to his bottom side influence. Pyke is able to CC whoever Xayah is able to lock down as well, but it's not exactly the most secure thing in the world. Pyke can very easily get engaged on back with Nautilus plus Sivir. And all that being said, Dawn have a lot of flexibility. They have teamfight, they have wave clear. Sivir, of course, being the ADC, looks at a wave and it's gone. Jax, of course, can hold up very healthily on the side lanes. Could get to a point where he outpushes Ryze, but we'll have to see whether he does actually crest that margin. But late game team fights, double tank, double carries, plus the Jax, you're looking good. Absolutely.
And the thing that looks scary for Temporal Gaming is, yes, you do have the Mundo now locked into the top side of the map, but when we're going down the list of potential tanks that you can get here at that point in the draft, that you could have brought you a lot of crowd control, really beefy walls. Mundo's not someone that helps you in the crowd control department. All he can really do is just run at the back line or try to absorb as much damage as he can and just potentially slow people with his cleavers. But Mundo's not someone that, if he's not ahead or maliciously ahead, that the rest of Dawn Esports are going to really give a damn about in these fights.
Precisely, but also we have to keep in mind is that because Dawn saved their top lane to the very end, you basically have to blind pick that lane, and Dr. Mundo was apparently what they felt comfortable blind picking into. And like originally I would say if you want a beefy tank, like the Orange still around there, he's not good in the top lane right now, but still it's some damage tank that you need. There just aren't that many solid picks that Temporal can not only A, blind pick, but B, would fill out their composition right here. So, and that is also the cost of playing with a aggressive support in aggressive jungle. The beef has to come from somewhere.
Yeah. And if you don't get it, then there's no real meat to the composition. It's all just nice fillings and toppings, but it doesn't make a whole meal there, if we're going to continue further on this food analogy. But back to the overall view of the compositions here. Once again, Dawn Esports, not only they have a very strong team fighting core in that Nautilus, Sivir, Orianna, and Sejuani. They also have the Jax from Remy, who can answer any potential split pushing that either Savage or Rin would be looking to do.
It gives them options. Like we saw last game, Temporal Gaming were able to stay in the game for quite a while because they had that split push option, and they didn't want to team fight. They couldn't team fight, and they didn't team fight in the end. And this game, there is a non-zero chance that if the early game doesn't go well, there may not be a split pushing threat. It all comes down to how does Ryze Mundo do against a Sivir plus a Jackson. Who really comes out on top of that strat, plus the fact that Dawn kind of have point-and-click team fight ability. You press R on Nautilus, you press R on Sejuani, and there's not really a way you get out of it the other way around.
Yeah, and even if you do get out of it, you get to press R one more time on the Sivir to be able to just rush him down. And when you look at this composition for Temporal Gaming, other than a kick, and if you can get some well-timed Realm Warps from Rin as well, there's not many ways for you to disengage this fight as a whole unit here for Temporal Gaming. So it really is going to come down to how well Nave can find that early snowball, but this time actually close the game out from there.
This game is very much on Nave's shoulders. Yes, the Rise lane is going to be pretty impactful. Top lane, Mundo versus Jax. You want to see if Mundo can get off to an early start. But all of that has to be started by somebody. Because if you just look at these compositions in a straight up late game 5v5, Dawn wins hands down, no questions asked.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes down to the individual playmaking, the individual style for Temporal to bring them out here. And this is where these teams do kind of fall into those narratives of what they're supposed to be. Dawn being the giant that hasn't really lost a series all season long. They are playing this very down-to-earth, simple-to-execute teamfight style that they know they can perfect. Temporal Gaming relying more on these sparks of brilliance coming out of their players, but at times it's just not enough, and that spark's got to burn pretty darn bright here if they want to move forward. Take game number 2 here over Dawn Esports in our Champions League finals. Otherwise, Dawn could already be moved to match point.
Absolutely. And one particular individual matchup that I've been very keen to look at is Nafe versus Rourke. Rourke has been on Sejuani 2 games now, Nafe on Lee Sin for 2 games now. And both players here, Nafe is a very aggressive, very carry oriented jungler here who wants to start the snowball strong. Whereas from Rourke, from all split long, we have seen him be able to fill multiple different types of colors and roles for his team. He's played the Karthus, he's played the Talia, he's played the Jarvan, he's played the Rek'Sai. So he can be whatever his team needs him to be. Mm-hmm. And in the last series, in the semifinals, he was, or I believe it was the quarterfinals, he was dumpstering kids with his Talia and his Karthus. But this time around, he recognizes that, you know what? I don't want to take the carry matchup 1v1 against Nafe. I'm just going to be a meat shield that my team needs, and I know that they can carry me through that.
And there's no shame in that. It's not saying that Rourke's an inferior player for not wanting to pick the super aggressive matchup every single time into Nafe. Like, you got to do what you got to do. You're a role player, especially in the jungle, and if you're willing to play Sejuani to win, God bless you. At the end of the day, that's all that matters. If the strategy that works best for Dawn is getting the double tanks, putting Rourke on a pick where you can still make an impact but still be a little bit more of that beefy playmaker, if that's what works, that's what they got to do. And it's a type of player that's willing to accept that role that usually does excel very well here in the amateur scene, especially with so much coming up just around the corner.
Absolutely. And just like Avengers Endgame, man, whatever it takes to be able to come out on top here, as we are reaching the point where we're going to take a quick intermission, be able to get the time for all the casters and the broadcast crew to be able to sync up on our monitors so that we are giving you the same time. But don't tune away, folks. Game 2, we'll be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, game 2 is now finally back as we are getting on the Rift here. We're not seeing a 5-man stack or 4-man stack like we did last time from these teams, but more the common 5-man spread here.
I would hold your horses on that one, as you're already seeing some engage banks here on the top side once again. Nave trying to find some early aggression, and we were talking about during this intermission, but it cannot be overstated how well Nave and Rennie have to do in this early game to make this worth it. Because if there's one thing we shot last game, is I trust the bottom lane for Dawn to outperform that of TPG. I don't think that's where we're going to get the advantage. Mid lane looked good, but it's still how much Nave can influence each of these lanes to get them these advantages that they need. And of course, this game will, I think, be the point where TPG either can accept that, yeah, this is a strat we can go with, move into the next 3 games with a 1-1 record, or whether we have to try something radically different because this just ain't working.
Yeah, and you just cannot rely on give Nave a couple kills and then, everything will fall into place. You have to be proactive with that lead. And while Nave, it seemed like for the first 10-15 minutes that it was being proactive, it just suddenly everything was not working as well, and then the rest of the map was able to catch up as you see some scraps here from Sandwich and Remy in the top lane.
And you got the trophy coming out here. Sandwich going to be looking to play this one a little bit through. Has the poke damage, which gives it a bit of advantage in the early game. Remy, realistically, on the Jax, is scaling. It's the classic Jax you guys all know and love. Look to just be a late game auto attack powerhouse going on through it. Personally, I haven't seen much Mundo as the plate. I know he is very much the pick into magic damage dealers. It's the pick where you're just a super sustained bot in the lane in the rest of the game. So we'll have to keep our eyes, of course, up there. But there's one person who's going to have their eye up there as well. It's going to be the junglers. And Nafe really showed a lot of determination to play on this top side last game around.
Right, and I wonder if Nave, they did see the ward that was on the Raptors, so hopefully he did path in that fog of war to be able to get to his red buff without the rest of the team knowing, so that he's able to prevent as much knowledge as he can to Rourke, who wants to be able to safely clear until the level 3, level 4 mark when he can start matching some of this early aggression.
Yeah, I think that's really going to be the plan here, and even you can see the early game investment into vision as you see the 2 wards on the top side, purely to see whether Nafe is going up to that top lane or not. I guarantee you, Remy at the last game was like, all right, give me vision early game. I swear to God, if I see this thresh at least one more time, I'm going to flip. But it's going to get safer than that. Is now bottom is skirmishing back and forth. Here is Nafe looking to turn this around.
He needs to find an entryway. He's going to ward hop. He flashes in for the Tempest Cripple Slow, lands the Sonic Wave into the Resonating Strike, and First Blood is going to go to Ivy Garden.
And it cannot be understated how good of a Lee Sin Nafe is. Being able to execute all that, like, he is really damn good. But it pains me to still say it's about what he can do afterwards. Flash forward down here on the bottom side. Great follow-up, but goes straight into the spell shield. First Blood achieved, and not going to Nafe exactly, but now in the top lane.
Oh, Jesus. Remy just trying to go in for the counter-strike, but the Terror Type has come in, but, oh my God, Sandwich turns it around on its head.
Oh, just barely gets out of that one. The TP, unfortunately for Rennie, is just absolutely wasted here. But with no mid laner, maybe actually baiting in CP freeze as Nave is here, lands a Resonating Strike.
He's going to go in for the autos. He does have to conquer procking, but CP freeze does have phase rush, so he's going to be able to kite this one out safely, and he did have a health advantage starting off of that. So, but Nave just influencing the lane a little bit as looks like Rin had teleported to the top side of the map thinking that he needed to be there for the dive.
Yeah, that was a head scratcher and a half in the top lane. And at least one thing that did come positively out of that fight, out of that dive, or in quotation marks positively, for Dawn was the fact that they didn't lose anyone on the top side. They didn't lose. It technically is a 1-for-1. Rourke died to tower, so no gold was given anywhere. But Remy does, of course, go down to the 1v1, and Sandwich is effectively able to stay alive on the map. And with all that, it's still a good turnaround. 2-for-1 turns into a 1-for-1 for Sandwich in the top lane, but not exactly the. I don't really know what to say. It's kind of just like 2 people showed up at the top lane.
You're trying
none
so
of them walked
hard
away.
to
It's great
and make sense out of it, and just every time you like reason and logic with it, you're like,
you can't.
Yeah.
you freaking can't.
It's a sad realization, but it must be done here. And, you know, I think
Yeah.
Rourke was trying to do what Nafe had done successfully well in game one against the 2-1 dives onto Remy, but, you know, critically, Savage being able to flash away from the Arctic Assault and Rourke trying to take up as much as damage as he could, and Remy not able to finish off Sandwich under turret. Oh, you hate to see it.
And you can argue here, and this is where the two junglers deviate, is we have been really hitting on Nafe being the mechanical player, and as we keep saying, he is an insanely good mechanical player, at least on the Lee Sin, but you need a lot more than just that to jungle, and it seems like Rourke is better at playing that full map, playing the macro game. Like, when you break down that play, that was the right place to be. If you can get that properly under tower, if you can clean up that dive and make a 2-for-1 dive, go 1-for-0, and take down Sandwich, that's fantastic. That's a huge play, but unfortunately the coordination does end up failing them at the end of the day. Overall gold, of course, still in favor for Temporal Gaming as they did get that first blood, but still not as deep as you may think. And even gold to jungle, like look at the look at the jungle farming discrepancy here. That's actually pushing the gold pretty favorably over for Rourke.
Yeah, and I think that comes back down to what these two junglers are looking to focus. Rourke is trying to get to that level 6 mark. He knows that his effectiveness goes through the roof once he does have access to that Glacial Prison, whereas Nafe, he's got to make as much work done possible before that breaking point for the side of Dawn Esports. And already he's influenced the bot lane, getting that first blood and getting multiple flashes down from Kankle and T26, as well as the heal. So he's already setting up Spotify guest, aka Ivy Garden, for success, which he did not have in the first game for sure.
And of course, now we are thankfully back in the game here. Whoever's hamster seemed to stop running, it's running again. And we're back now 4 minutes 30 into this one, and look at the movement on mid lane. That is a huge amount of CC, and Salmon actually taking a little bit of a detour. Came back to mid as Rin flexed to top lane. Are they actually just going to stay with this? I think they are, but here comes T26 with the Nautilus.
Sandwich able to sidestep the Nautilus hook, the dredge line. T26 still has the root from the passive, but he cannot get in range to Sandwich. And at first, I was a little cautious about Sandwich walking up that far, but he gets out fine.
And as it's just only a temporary movement, of course, as Ram went to top lane. Nafe coming up through the bot lane gang Sandwich. Now, rotating back, and just like that, everything is nice, happy again. Scaling items coming through here. Rin is able, of course, to finish up the tier, meaning that he's going to start scaling, of course, with that Archangel Staff. The late game is firmly in sight for this mid laner, but now in the bottom lane, Rourke.
Oh, Rourke was waiting for the right moment, and spot by guest, Ivy Garden is going to have flashed away. The Phantom Undertow comes out from a good surge. They're actually able to turn around. Murado is going to allow them to get the 2v3 successfully, and Ivy Garden is now off on the board with 2 kills to his name.
And a bit of miscommunication on exactly who to go on, as the combination of Rourke and Saber start moving in on the ball, on Spotify guest, trying to get those stacks going up. T26 throws the Q, lands it on Good Sir. So some very nice body blocking there, prevents the ADC from getting locked down, lets the damage come on through here, and with the item discrepancy right now, pickaxe longsword Xayah is going to do more damage than a double longsword Saber. Not only do you have the damage stats, but you also got all the buffs with the W, the Q, the E, the whatnot, the whole shebang. And they make the shebang work into the bottom side in a big turnaround for Temporal Gaming, as they're still looking to stack advantage on top of advantage in this early game portion.
And we have to go back to the draft and remember that Dawn Esports was the one that opted into taking the Sivir away from Ivy Garden, who did, to put it bluntly, not that good on that champion. And Kankle had a standout performance on the Xayah. Shockwave actually misses, and Nafe, Good Sir, and Rin looks like they're going to just run down Freeze to the ground as Nafe picks up another kill for this game.
Yeah, really good movement here, and it's so important on the pike that when you're not doing something bottom lane, you keep moving, you keep rotating around. You don't have health, you don't deal that much damage, but you are able to influence plays across the map, and in combination with Nafe, I think it's a fantastic combo here, adding to that overall playmaking. But going back to what you're talking about with the Sivir, with all that kind of stuff here in towards the bottom lane, I think when you're just thinking purely what is the best to shut down this playstyle of TPG, I think the Sivir was so crucial to that, because it was the double wave clear, it was the, delay the game option that unfortunately they just weren't able to make work. And I think taking away that Sivir does theoretically give you the advantage back in the draft, but Not sure if it pans out exactly like that, especially now that Spotify Guest has basically been granted a double kill. Has 2 kills now to the name in lane based off of ganks from the other team.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, with respect, it's definitely easier to criticize in hindsight when things don't work out, and according to the blueprint you might have for how the game should be played out. And they definitely weren't expecting Ivy Garden to start off the game with 2 kills to his name, almost a 1,200 gold lead for himself. He's almost sitting a BF items worth of stats for himself here against Kankle. He's just rushing that Essence Reaver. He should be completing it quite soon.
Oh yeah, it should be done very, very shortly. And Sivir, with a bit more of the scaling, means that Temporal Gaming will have the damage advantage in this bottom side for quite some time. And we saw the 1v1s last game, Xayah versus Sivir. Last game it went the way of Xayah, went with Kankle, who just locked him down in a 1v1. And I think this game, with the advantage, you're going to be seeing that same thing. So Dawn, going to be having to find alternative routes to make something happen in this early game. But right now, they just got to be happy with staying alive.
Speaking of staying alive, Sandwich is going to pop the ultimate just to give him that extra health regeneration. I think he knew that Rourke was planning for a dive quite soon, as both Rin and Nape are actually positioned to counter this.
I saw this one once already. Now 2v3 could be coming very shortly. Savage still alive.
Yeah, Flash comes in. Rourke has the flash away, and the Realm Warping is going to come in the counter. Remy does find the redemption kill and is able to take down Sandwich, but was it really worth giving a double kill over to Rin?
Yeah, and that's just a completely unnecessary kill given over to Remy, as Sandwich just walks forward. The Jax isn't going anywhere. You don't need to be the saving factor, but that is the lesser of the sins here. That is the least of these evils. Now in the mid lane, guys are trying to be the greatest evil here. Possibly just a little bit of a stun, just a how you do in the mid lane. But back to that top lane, I have zero idea what Dawn was trying to do there. That not only did that play fail terribly once before, but you have no vision of where Nafe is. Rennie is free to roam up here with no mid lane shoving priority. And that is a play that is almost begging to be turned around. And now this is another big advantage in the early game as Temporal Gaming look to keep this game going pretty darn quickly. And, you know, nearing in on just over a 2k gold advantage is looking pretty good once again.
Absolutely. And I think one thing that we have to, it might be too early to say, and we still don't know who's going to come out on top in this game right now.
Yeah, we've been in this position once before.
Yeah, we've definitely been in this position once before. But so far, the early starts of trying to go to the top side of the map have not worked out, whereas focusing the bot side has definitely allowed the other team in that favor to be able to get the true advantage here, as Kankle did receive a lot of the help from Rourke in the early game on the first game around. This time it's Nafe giving Ivy Garden that lead, and now that might be the window that you just need to play around. You know, you don't care about top lane, just get this bottom lane, get this AD carry fed, get a good Sir unlocked, and you already see how much his influence has helped in terms of map pressure.
Jax will split push late. You don't need to worry about that as long as he's not being ganked time and time again from Nath, you're fine. And as long as you do that much protection, you're perfectly good. But it is an over-reliance. It's the forcing of plays here from Dawn that is really putting them behind, and it's almost putting them in the position where it's almost taunting Temporal Gaming to make that next big play themselves. And a little bit of a sneaky Herald here, and I do have to applaud this one from Dawn if they do get away with it. But this would be taking a Herald when they have zero real reason that they should be taking this Herald. Like, it's a fantastic move, but there is so much advantage for Temporal here that should not be an objective they even think about taking. Great playmaking there from Dawn to at least get something back in this early game. But it'll look to be traded back for this dragon here. First dragon of the game will be the Windrake. Herald popped in the mid lane. Could mean first tower here. This could be a race.
Well, and then Nafe is busy hitting the Cloud Dragon. He's going to be able to come up, but now both him and Good Sir need to be able to roam and respond to this Rift Herald, as now they're going to opt in for the 2v3. Flash Root comes in. There is the flash as well from Nafe as he dodged the shockwave. Doesn't even need to use the kick. Holds it back on that one. T26 has finally come, but just a little late to the party as CP Freeze already falling to the hands of Temporal Game.
Yeah, and good play once again. Nafe doing the mechanical prowess, flashing away from Rorky's ultimate keeps him going alive. Mid lane overextended. A big win here for Temporal Gaming. And that Herald is blown primarily to give gold back over to CP Freeze. Now, Gage and Nave, there's the shutdown.
Yeah, and already the dredge line is being popped as the ultimate from T26 taking down Nave, but Jeff from below did not find his mark, so no reset will come in, but it doesn't matter because Ivy is finally here. Double TPs are coming in. The rest of the members of Temporal Gaming are coming in to join the party. Sandwich does not have flash, but CP Freeze does have his as well, but he's gonna just try to run him down with pure speed, and he's gonna throw a giant goblet trophy at the head of Kankle and is gonna get able to take it down.
And now with that, Genki is dead, Rorky is dead, everyone just falling off by the wayside, and I was about to go ahead. I was criticizing Dawn because they only really able to get a little bit more gold onto the mid laner off that whole Herald that they just fantastic. It's not a TP to the top, so by the way, to stop Remy from taking some blades. But this should be enough of a lead. Towers are going down, plating will be falling soon, and now, looking under Remy, this could be huge.
Has the kick, but the Counter-Strike is going to block some of this auto-attack damage, but if he has another Sonic Wave to be able to gap close,
1 second.
Remy could go down. Oh, but he dodges it! He's going to be able to walk out safely.
Yeah, good move from Remy. That did, in fact, save his life. That would have been huge. They'll take that one down. Definitely needs top tower, at least a plate or two. Now Rorky is already on their way. T26 moving up as well, but it's a slippery serpent himself. That fight just missing again. Qs are not the name of the game right now for Temporal Game these last few minutes, but still, it's starting to impose their will on this map. So a few more of those, one might stick.
I definitely will say that the moves, at least map movement wise, have been correct and they've been great from Temporal Gaming. A little bit of the execution, unfortunately, is not always there in landing the picks that you need to land, but still, the pressure is being felt by Dawn Esports. And I think this is a huge takeaway that we can show that Temporal Gaming have learned from the mistakes in Game 1.
Yes, it seems like they're much more cautious with approaching some of these plays, that they're making sure they know where Rorky is, that they know what the mid lane priority shove looks like, so they're not opting into a bad fight for themselves. They're cleaning things up, and if Dawn are just going to be most of your line, which they are right now, and sitting back and waiting for a macro mistake to come out of Temporal, it's going to be a lot harder to find. So when it does happen in North American Amateur, I will personally guarantee you it will happen. They need to be ready to execute.
That time will come soon as we are 15 minutes into the game, so it does mean that the time at which these full-scale team fights might be coming sooner than we think. Obviously, for Temporal Gaming, they would rather opt in for the split-up skirmishes, the isolated 1v1s, where a lot of these champions that they've drafted for themselves will excel. But vision is going to be a huge contributing factor, as we do see a lot of pinks on the top side of the map in favor for Temporal Gaming.
Still able to move around here, and Dawn are effectively slowing down the game. Kanky gotta be the main carry threat right now from Dawn. They need the Sivir to scale up nicely. Already now completed the Essence Reaver. Should have quite a bit of gold. Only 900, so maybe piecemeal of second item, but definitely nowhere near time to fight just yet. But when you're really breaking the team down and thinking, okay, how do we win these fights? You need to not only bunch up the entire Temporal game into one position, use your tank line, use your CC to initiate something, and then between Freeze and Kanky, you need to be able to execute, you need to be able to take down some of these big threats. Once that is satisfied, once you're able to do that, then Dawn have a way into the game. But for now, none of those conditions are ready. Your tanks are not tanks yet, your damage is not damage yet, and your split push for sure is not split push just yet. So it is a reactive game, it is a slow game, and it is trying to find anything that the full game will give you.
Temporal Gaming, it just means that the game is on now their shoulders to be able to accelerate and push into a successful closing. You know, they struggled with this issue in the first game. So far, it seems like this early lead is a lot better and there's a lot more massive here in their favor. But it still doesn't mean that the game is over quite yet, as they are cautiously trying to extend that vision line further into the bot side jungle to prepare for the second dragon.
Yeah, and you're starting to see some objectives being traded back and forth. A very large priority for Temporal Gaming is put on the second dragon, as they now extend their dragon lead to 2, and they're going to be able to pick up the Mount Drake on top of the pre-existing Wind Drake that they had before. And as such, they do put the pause once again to their pushing. But it needs to be more than just these T1s. They haven't yet gotten top lane T1. They need to push into T2 as well, and that's where you can really start putting the pressure, because that's when you get to start denying away the jungle, you deny away the routes of gold, you deny away the roots of XP, and that's where leads really do come to fruition. But all the while, Dawn, they're starting to support to the split push strategy. They already got Remy pushing out the side waves.
Freezes come up. He's going to have to answer this wave because he doesn't have teleport. Remy does have teleport to be able to answer, but he doesn't have his Trinity Force quite yet. So more than preferably, he would love to recall, be able to complete that item, as he does not quite have enough gold for it to complete it so far. But if he can get that Trinity Force, maybe he can turn around these services. But a good
we're giving some away on the wall.
26, and that's right. Flash is going to be forced here so that he can escape safely.
And you can see that Dawn is trying to put as much gold as possible onto Remy so he can eventually be the split push threat. But right now, with how fed Rennie is, there's no way he can sit up on the side with two level disadvantage. Rennie just chunks right now.
Overload. Second one misses. It's not going to take Remy down quite yet, but it does force him away, taking that blue buff. And now Rin says, oh, thank you very much. I will take this for myself.
And this is starting to get to a troubling spot because Temporal Gaming can stay in the split push, because there is nobody who can sit up to Rennie in the side lane. This is the spot they wanted to be this last game. Effectively, this is last game replayed, but take away the part where Temporal Gaming gave, straight up gave the game back over to Dawn. They haven't made that big mistake, so they're still able to go ahead and hit these side lanes. And Remy, not yet on Triforce, just got Tiamat plus the component. Sandwich, very beefy here. You see so much damage in that top side, right? Nathan, down here.
Well, Nate just
comes
burned
through.
Flash, and he's going to get over the wall with the help of the Blast Cone, but Zanvich actually is going to pop the ultimate. He does have Magic Resist to be able to fight against CP Freeze. It forces the Shockwave out, so CP Freeze might have to recall here. He does have Teleport to be able to come back into his lane, but burning the Summoner spell just to be able to return to this lane could give Temporal Gaming another macro advantage.
That is not an option right here. Freeze were to teleport back to top lane, that would be devastating, but now, good sir, Spotify, they smell the blood in the water. They know they can head up to this top side, and Freeze is forced to back away from the tower. That is a play that, quite frankly, should have happened about 5 minutes ago for Temporal Gaming. They are definitely becoming slow in moving the game to an even further spot, but, you know, as they said in school, late's better than never. So, yeah, that's exactly the form and the strategy that we're going to be going with for right now. Rennie, though, on the bottom side, really going to be laying on that pressure now with 20 minutes already off the clock and Baron on the board.
Right, and to be fair here, the Baron actually is going to be started up right at spawn. They do have the Mountain Dragon and a 2.5-item Zaya here, so they're going to be burning down really quick, and there is no vision whatsoever for the side of Dawn, so this is a free Baron for Temporal Gaming.
That's a good move from TPG. They know they have the damage, they know they have the Mountain Drake, and more importantly, they know they have a 2-item ADC that will melt Baron on away, and Nave, of course, is there just for security. So that is the blitzkrieg that they needed in this early game, and now they just got to start rolling it right down all these towers. This T2 line cannot survive. You're looking to make a deep impact. You're looking to make that stabbing blow. You're looking to get an inhibitor at least here.
Something to keep in mind here, Return, not just for this game alone, but for the series as well, as we can always look back to. When we casted the series of TPG versus Semantics, the very first game that they played, it was very sloppy. Execution was completely just not there for the side of TPG. But as the series went on, they started playing more clean. They started to be able to recognize their mistakes and adapt well. So maybe this is a sign of things to come for TPG's side at least. So now, Dawn Esports, they're going to have to show how well they are able to adapt as well in this series.
Yeah, and it's the reliance on one of two camps, once again, that really differentiates these two teams. Temporal Gaming is way more focused on the individual play of their players. Nath, Rin, Spotify, Goodsir, Sandwich. It is the collective, or exactly, the individuals, rather, are what stand out in this team. But Dawn, it's more of that greater than the sum of their parts. They're trying to play the team style. They're trying to wait for these team fights. And right now, the individuals are far outpowering the group right now. Capitalism is dominating communism in this matchup, and with the Baron buff pushing on through, seems that the bourgeoisie may be coming out again. Top lane matchup as well. Pressure just won't let up.
Can we just talk about how Sandwich is absolutely giving Remy the pain train here with these goblets here. That when we went back to the Mundo Jax matchup, we were talking about, man, this seems really off. It feels like Jax should be able to obliterate this. But when we talked about if Mundo is able to get ahead and is able to stay ahead of the item curve against Jax, he's going to be able to take care of him.
Look at Sandwich's items. He just doesn't die. Remy, sure, he has the Conquer, but not only are you going into Ninja Tabby, not only you're going into the first few items of a Thornmail, not only are you going into the healing, you're going into a Mundo who does not die with an advantage. And with that, if Remy can't kill him, you ain't split pushing against him. And the range available from a Mundo also helps you with these tower dive situation and with the split pushing, is you don't have to just tower dive somebody to get them out of the way. You can just keep pressing Q until they don't exist anymore. And now the T2 line, very slowly, mind you, still is falling away one by one. And if there's one thing that I can really, you can really look to at Dawn with some positive look right now, it's that they're not throwing away the game. They know that they don't have the advantage, so they're giving away things piecemeal, as slow as they possibly can. Freeze though gets flashed on. I don't think that's gonna find its way though.
Yeah, Nate was trying to burn the spell shield, seeing maybe if Ren was just testing his damage, but clearly it's not enough, as the flash will be counted in the all chat here for sums in terms of Ren, but it does buy time for Sandwich to be able to push on this bot side of the map.
They're just giving Sandwich this. They know that they can't stop it. And Dawn, sure, they have been playing a slow game, they have been giving things piecemeal, and they have been hanging on, but you're at the point where if you give away one or two more things, this game is over. You cannot give away this many inhibitors. Kanky is going to be able to kite back, but they just have no response to Mundo.
Yeah, Sandwich is just in the thick of it. He's going to flash out early just so he doesn't give up anything unnecessarily, but return, it is a 3-item Xayah to a Sivir who just finished her Infinity Edge. There's no way that Ivy Garden gets out DPS here unless he walks too far forward or he misplays here. 2 inhibitors are going to fall super easily in favor of Temporal Gaming.
Precisely. This was a composition that needed to stay ahead. Temporal, if they were not at least half an item spike each ahead, this would not be working right now. The traditional team fighting of Dawn would win. But it's those early advantages that have carried through, and now more items starting to come on through as well. Good Sir has more just kill threats. You have the lethality items coming through as well. Spotify, like you said, it's looking like a monster. 3.5 items completed already, almost onto the 4th. Mundo's literally unkillable at this point. Thornmail now fully completed. And Nath, he's kind of just along for the ride at this point. He knows that he's done his early game well. He's on the retirement home right now. He is just an insect bot at this point, but by God, is that a good looking insect bot?
Yeah, I mean, he's got the Black Cleaver, so he knows he does some damage if he needs to get into the scrap and the thick of things as well. But even if he's not looking to insect, he can always just use his kick to just peel away any diving threats potentially from Remy or Rourke, who are trying to lock down Spotify guest to Rin here. So they are in such a good state right now. And even it's a 10,000 gold lead. If you look at the individual gold leads, 2,000 for top lane, almost 5,000, 4,000 for the 80 carry role. 5 on 5. Temporal game should always win, but Nath is going to get caught out. That's not what you want to see when you're playing for Temporal Gaming. Rin does equalize one back in favor. T26 is going to go down, but how much value is it for the rest of TPG to lose a jungler for support?
It's the play they needed, but it's certainly not the play that will save this game just yet, and it's going to be curious to see whether it's even going to save this top lane inhibitor. You're right. Once again, Nath does not matter at this point. His early game was phenomenal. It literally doesn't, or it kind of matters, but it doesn't matter that much whether he lives or dies in these fights. What matters more is Rini and Spotify guys are still pumping out damage. Sandwich is still unkillable. And Dawn are effectively still locked down into the void of doing nothing.
Fitzer was looking for a death and below reset. Rourke is almost low here, has about 1,000 or 100 health for himself respectively as the rest of the members. T26 as Respawn is going to try to lock up Rin. He doesn't have flash from before, and maybe just an oversight from Temporal Gaming, but Good Sir and Spotify guest still trying to look for this. Meanwhile, Savage is still pushing into the turret. Spotify guest does find a kill on a Remy. He's able to flash away, and he will live eventually before Kankle just finally flashes in and gets the job done, but Sandwich is not going to be able to take this Nexus turret. The last minion has fallen. He does take down one, however. Temporal Gaming splitting up focus from the rest of Dawn Esports. They lose a couple members for it. I'm not sure how really this evens out here to turn.
It's complicated, but Dawn could have lost the game there. And the fact that they didn't should be pretty impressive. However, the damage has already been done. A Nexus tower falling, 2 inhibitors being down, and top lane inhibitor tower basically being toppable with the stiff blow of a summer breeze here. But now with no real response, no way that they're going to be able to go ahead and deny this Baron away. All in all, it was a monumental, or rather, it was a incremental victory for the side of Dawn. They saved the game, but unfortunately, that battle ain't what's going to matter. It's going to be this upcoming one with 2 shoving waves of super minions, 5 members now with Baron on the other team. It's got to be a godlike stop. The tools are there. The ultimate from Sejuani, from Rorky, and the ultimate from T26 are huge lockdown tools that don't care how fed the other person are. If you hit them, they probably die. But you need to hit them perfectly now. You need to lock down Spotify. You need to lock down Rennie. You need to take them out before anything bad happens.
Yeah. And on one side of the token, Flash and heal is down for Ivy Guardian, aka Spotify Guest 27, so that could be a target to look to lock down with that Nautilus ultimate, the depth charge. But also Kankle used his own summoners to be able to assassinate him, flashing forward to take down that kill. And it's still 4.5 items versus 3.5 in terms of AD carry power and DPS. So naturally, if both AD carries on check, Spotify Guest should come out on top. Oh, baby. Well, here comes the fight. Glacial Prison doesn't really find its mark anymore, and Death from Below. The resets might start right here, and it just might be enough. Has Donnie's full health. I mean, what can they do? There's nothing really to tell that you can't see for yourself, guys. Temporal Gaming just finally, as a 5-man unit, are able to run over with the triple kill to Zamvich's name. And game 2 is going to go over to Temporal Gaming.
Temporal Gaming, once again, they win the early game, but finally, they win the mid game, and they take down Dawn in convincing fashion. Dawn were laying back. They were waiting for Temporal to give them something to play the game with. Unfortunately, that never came, and if Dawn want to hang in this series, they have to find out how to either A, hamper the early game aggression coming out from Nafe, or B, not make as many mistakes in the early game and keep that early advantage to the shortest possible amount. And right now, they're looking vulnerable.
Yeah, finally, it seems that Temporal Gaming have found the crack in the armor that Dawn Esports have had for all split long and arguably all playoff series long. So now Temporal Gaming, they know what Dawn Esports' weaknesses are. The question is, are Dawn Esports are going to now change things up to reflect a different playstyle to answer this aggressive early macro or early game from Temporal, or are they just going to run it back and hope for the best?
I think that now, like, with this game, you've now lost 2 early games in a row. You have to do something that you have to try to compete with them in the early game. Either A, you have to change the playmaking style to not give all these opportunities where members are rotating around. I think you obviously deny the Pike pick here. I think that was a huge enabling factor for Temporal, but maybe you invest that extra ban into the Lee Sin as well. Basically say, we don't know if you can play anything other than these 2, or play them at least at that same level. Show us what you got, because if you take away Temporal's early game, I still think Dawn hold a huge advantage in late game team fighting and late game macro play. I think they still have it, but you need to get to the mid game before you can think about the late game.
Yeah, you need to get there is basically the main point here. And we will find out if Dawn Esports are able to make that adaptation as we cut for intermission and get ready for Game 3. Don't turn off that browser, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back. Did you miss us, ladies and gentlemen? Because we're back for Game 3, and both of the teams are ready to just get this showdown on the way once again, as Dawn and TPG will start off the pick and ban phase with the typical Nidalee and Yasuo bans that we have seen most of the series long. But now, will Dawn Esports change up one of their last bans here returned?
It's going to be interesting. I personally think that Lee Sin should be on the table because Temporal Gaming, quite frankly, have been winning this early game off the back of Lee Sin. Lee Sin, the team's been doing great as well. The Pyke last game was phenomenal. Pyke being banned away from Temporal Gaming is an interesting one, as I thought it would have been an interesting point if you give it to Dawn and get 2 power picks back, but they don't even want it. But Rai is actually going to be the go-to ban here. Gotta be wondering, what is going to be first pick priority? As we've been saying before, the Aatrox, the Aurelia, the Vladimir are all up and on the board. Silas even too for... It's interesting to see that it hasn't really been picked up on the blue side here for a while, but we'll have to see what exactly the Thresh I don't think is really going to be priority, but Dawn is going to be going once again with the Aatrox. It's the #1 pick here.
There's the Silas right there. It has been banned all series long away from Rin. It is his most played. It is definitely his most comfortable champion in terms of looking at his solo queue pool. But if they need to flex it to the top lane, it definitely is viable. But look at this adaptation to Temporal Gaming. They say, you know what? Sivir has clearly not worked out for either of us, so we're going to secure the Xayah right now.
Certainly, and I think that both teams that had the Sivir lost very key points of the game. Temporal taking game #1, lost the early game. They couldn't really compete, so that didn't go well for them. Dawn, different scenario. They lost the early game significantly, so it didn't matter when they got to the late game. So Xayah definitely coming in through priority. I think there are a few other picks here. Jinx is also up and around. Ezreal floating around too. Also the Sivir, like you said. All viable options, but the Sejuani being locked in leaves the Aurelia, and this is the Wombo combination you'd love to see with the Sejuani. It is the double solo melee lanes that have a lot of lockdown ability, and you can easily get that Sejuani passive off.
Yeah, and even though that Sejuani is not normally known for her early aggression, having a melee enabler for that permafrost stack is going to allow her to make those ganks off early successfully. But Temporal Gaming have actually made the switch without the requirement for a ban on Lee Sin, and Nath has just said, you know what, it's Rek'Sai time.
Now it's going to be an interesting one. Lee Sin was up and available, but this time around, one thing that's going to be a little bit more useful going into those later stages of the game, and I can definitely not blame him. Rek'Sai still brings a lot of the gank abilities. You are able to tunnel under those walls, but unlike Lee Sin, that just guaranteed to fall off late game because you don't have the damage scaling, Rek'Sai is a different beast entirely. It's all about getting an early game advantage, but as long as you stay about half an item above your enemy, the enemy jungler rather, you will still remain relevant. You still are a damage threat. You're still a dive threat. So looking to maybe prolong his usefulness life past the point where Dawn was able to win game #1.
Temporal Gaming now, they need to lock down their support and their top laner or mid laner. Nautilus is up on the table. It definitely could be a powerful pick away now that the Pyke, the Thresh, and even the Rakan for that Xayah Rakan duo has been taken away here. And it would allow them to save but they're actually going to elect to save their support pick for last and lock in the Camille instead.
Camille is going to be an interesting one, as once again, that should be the Camille Aatrox lane, at least assuming. But remember, all these picks can go either way. Aurelia, Aatrox, Silas, Camille can all fit comfortably in the top lane, into the mid lane. So we will have to be waiting until we see the actual draft to negotiate that one. Sejuani means that we still have a very eligible team fight, and Dawn picking up the Kayla Morgana as, quite frankly, the strongest possible lane in the current meta. Xayah Rakan still very good too. However, Morgana, Caitlyn, you have poke, you have lockdown, you have kill, and you have disengage as well. So really looking for something that gets them over this early game hump, and hoping that if they can finally prevent TPG from getting some massive edge in the early game, they'll have something going in the lane. They're just going to fight fire with fire here. Bard, one of the highest, if not the highest damage early game support you can possibly have, while still bringing a little bit of utility to the table.
It's all about them chimes, baby, as a good sir, the sub, the last minute fill-in for this team, has decided to risk one of these games and say, you know what, coach, believe in me. It is time to put these guys on the cosmic lockdown. And the potential for a snowball from Bard can actually be super massively high. As you already said before, early game damage from a Bard is insane. The scaling is somewhat insane as well if he is able to get off to a good start. And the roaming potential, which is what allowed a good start to be able to influence the map so well after the early game lead on the boss of the map, is what gave Temporal Gaming that snowball to be able to play off for the win.
Certainly, we'll have to keep our eyes on that. One big thing, though, once again, for Temporal is that they don't have a traditional tank. Once again, that is a running theme. It is all damage composition. Still with some split pushing members here, like once again the Camille if he gets a late game, but it's almost flexing a bit more towards this pick style as well. The Bard being one of the best points of this, and I even want to hit on this a bit more because Bard is one of those champions where it is 100% down to the player. There are champions like Sejuani, like Braum, that, yeah, you have to have a modicum of skill to make it work, but it doesn't have that much skill expression. Bard is very different. You can carry fights, you can throw fights away, the Q double binding is always hard to hit, and then the ultimate, quite possibly one of the trolliest and aggressive abilities you can possibly have in the game. So all eyes will be very firmly planted down to the bottom line to see whether Good Sir, who definitely had some shortcomings in game number 1, is going to be able to really make this pick work. Because that's aggressive.
Yeah, it is super aggressive, and it's super spicy as well, which I definitely appreciate as we're going into Game 3 for this Risen Esports Champion Finals between these two teams here. One thing I want to note is we have to go back to this top lane matchup. This is the same exact matchup we saw in Game 1. Savage electing to take the Camille as a counter pick into Remy. But you have to remember, short burst trades, not overextended all-ins. So hopefully Savage keeps that in mind this time. Otherwise, that lead that he had netted before is going to fall away once again.
And I want to see how both top laners play around the top side again, because game number 1, Temporal Gaming, Nafe was just living top lane, and it was fantastic. They got kill after kill. They were basically making Remy hate the lane. Game number 2, Dawn decides to try their hand at throwing ganks topside. It goes terribly wrong, and Temporal Game are able to win. And I want to see whether this is just going to turn into an isolation lane, just let Sandvich and Remy play against each other. Does Nave actually make moves up here? Or do we now, and what I think is a correct answer, see Dawn invest a little bit more time into getting this vision control, into making sure that we're not throwing two-man plays into a roaming Nave, into a roaming mid laner, and actually take the game a bit slower and deny Temporal Gaming the advantage. Because the thing here is you don't have to beat Temporal Gaming in the early game, you just have to not lose to them. And I think there's a very big discrepancy there that Dawn may not be comprehending.
And Good Sir just playing around with us, who was hovering the Lux and the Fiddlesticks. It's like, hey, that's not the Bard that you promised us. And finally locks in the Chime God himself, the Cosmic Wanderer, as we're almost getting ready into game, folks. But as we take one last look at this overall composition, a couple things to note. The Caitlyn Morgana we have to go back to. This is a very oppressive lane that can turn things around and set up Dawn Esports a favorable lead in, at least in the bot side of the map. You just poke, you shove them out, and it's super impressive. Once they get under turret, you lock them down with the dark bindings into the traps, or vice versa. You can definitely poke them out. So what does Nave have to do to be able to influence them, other than the obvious just gank, unless there's nothing more to it?
I think gank is a good start. I'm curious how these lanes play out. Once again, top lane, we saw was Camille favored in the early portions of game 1, so I'd expect to go somewhat the same. Aurelia Silas is that double flex pick. Aurelia, of course, does need a little bit of time to get going, so I'd expect Silas to have the advantage in mid lane as well. And then bottom lane, that's a lot more up in the air. Once again, Caitlyn Morgana should be the immediate thoughts on exactly who wins that bottom lane first, but Bard always throws a big old wrench into the equation. So this top side of the map should be very aggressive for Nave. You can look to invade, you can look to shut down Rorky, you can look to get those ganks off, but it's all about playing around where you're strong and trying to cover up where some of those weaknesses are. And if Nave can keep sowing that craziness, that random rotations coming in that caught Dawn off guard last two games, that's where Temporal Gaming are going to find that success again.
Absolutely. And if I'm not mistaken, Remy has taken the Ignite here in the loading screen. So this could potentially be that what exactly that you said, that CP Freeze might be flexing towards the top side to answer the Camille, and we're going to see Remy in the mid lane to answer Rin on the Silas. But We'll have to find out sooner or later, as we're going to cut to short intermission as we get ready for the technical. You know what it is, guys. Don't tune away, though. We'll be right back with Game 3 in just a moment. And we are back on the Rift for Game 3, ladies and gentlemen. Temporal Gaming and Dawn Esports. 1-1, neck-to-neck here. And this game is going to be important in terms of momentum to see who can try and take that pivot point and accelerate ahead of their opponent in this series.
Interesting moves here right off the start of the game. This could be a double 5-man stack here. So one team has a Bard and the other team has a Morgana plus Sejuani's and Melee. So a lot of danger on each side. And I think that info advantage is actually going to be going over to the side of TPG here, as they know that Dawn are not on the top side of the map. Remember, Rek'Sai does have a radar dish, basically. Actually, no, she doesn't. She of course, didn't start W, so doesn't quite get the radar dish yet. But as nobody's really seen, one person probably going to get spotted out is Rourke. Spotted out here on the red buff. The rest of the team still at large.
And they're able to get the ward taken away from Dawn Esports as well, whereas the ward allowing them to see the red buff stays. And so it's going to allow Nave to be able to start safely on his top side, whereas Rourke, who was potentially thinking about a red buff invade, now has to succeed and start on his blue buff.
Yeah, making early moves. I think that was a early attempt at trying to limit the knowledge of Nafe in the early game, but it does end up somewhat backfiring. Of course, they do know where Nafe is starting, but information is basically shared both ways. So all in all, not the worst start in the world. Nafe here, not going for the Korean Krug stratus. It's red buff, then Raptors, then Krugs, but we'll be getting the Krugs for an early level 2 to 3 spike.
He just needs one more camp after the takes down the rock monsters here. Maybe he does path into the Raptors, or maybe he paths over into his bottom side of the jungle, as there's no need for him to be able to contest the Scuttle Crab early, as we've already mentioned game 1. This is after patch 9.10. Scuttle Crabs don't spawn at 215, they spawn at 315 now, as we do see the level 2 advantage being exerted heavily by the bottom side of the map.
Yeah, big pressure down, and I think this is going to be a very snowballing lane here in the bottom side of the map, to say the least. Something that we didn't really cover, Freeze and Remy are on the Aatrox and Rally respectively, but they did swap lanes, so Freeze headed up to the top side up against Camille. Still, it's that elongated trade versus elongated trade, as Sandwich does take the Conqueror now to match that, but with some of the more scaling coming out from Aurelia, that could be giving a bit more advantage in the early game. Sandwich. Nave going to be making this first gank here onto the melee of Remy.
Comes out from Nave, and the Doctor's going to follow, and Remy just does not opt into using any of his summoners. He knows it's already done. First blood once again to Nave.
Able to find something big once again, and onto Arini. This is a matchup when you get Silence ahead, he is able to snowball leads, he has engaged, he has sustained, he has quite a bit of damage, and just like that, Nave once again finding ways to affect the map. Do keep in mind though that Remy did not blow the flash, so still isn't the easiest in the world to regank, and Rainy also same thing, didn't blow his flash as well. Nafe only being the only offender rather to that squad, but still early game advantages, best you can ask for right now for TPG.
And Nafe once again showing his strong suit card here as he goes in for the flash, converting that first blood for himself. Still needs to recall to be able to get that gold early back here, but he's still keeping up in CS with Rourke, who is just once again opting in for the power farm, as Rourke is now hovering the top side of the map, potentially positioning for a counter gank or a gank on the rim, but he still has flash and Abscom nagged up.
So all that pushing coming out of these side lanes as well, you can see that CP Freeze is actually maintaining a pretty decent early advantage. Now Rourke, now the mid lane.
And a teleport is actually coming out from Savage to answer, but it gets canceled by the flawless duet from Freeze here, as both of them actually canceled their teleports. Rin having the flash away, the ignite comes out from Remy, just has to respect the potential for that all in, and Nafe was here for the counter gank, but still almost getting taken through.
Yeah, big moves coming through, and with all that, it almost got very dangerous there from TPG, as a great TP cancel from Freeze. Almost turned the tides of that battle, but another pause coming on through here. It seems that mid laner was lagging, evidently. We actually need to get that one started very quickly, nonetheless. But with all that being said, top lane, big discrepancy, of course, being that TP now. CP Freeze will have the TP up a little bit sooner, thanks to that. But either way, early game still going to be shaken out to just a handful of jungle moves at this point.
So far, there's no hard advantage CS leads at the moment in either lane, as everything is somewhat even. You have to keep in mind that top lane teleports have been burnt, as both of them were cancelled respectively by each other. But at this point, Savage is actually getting pressured out, as he does not have enough mana to be able to compete against the Corrupting Potion of mana sustain that CP Phrase has in this lane.
And as do keep going forward, Nave looking to make that second play. Great flash duet, but gets knocked out nonetheless.
And the flash comes out from Freeze, almost too close to be comfortable on that one, but was trying to test the limits of that damage reduction from his W, but it's not enough, as, you know, both summoner spells are now down for Freeze, and Savage has the ability to be able to shove this entire wave of CS in.
Shove coming up through, and that is one of the advantages of the mid, but now...
Oh,
Rin.
man. Rin!
Dead!
The Remy didn't even have Ignite. Yeah.
Go on there. Ignite advantages. Comes on over, but doesn't matter. Big wave advantage. Rourke thankfully was in the back in case anything went wrong, but you need to be careful, because it's also that difference in runes as well. The Aftershock means that you want to go in, get those quick trades while you can, but once that Aftershock falls off, Remy will out-trade you and will continue to with the sustain, especially through the rest of Conqueror. And that's just blatantly disrespected. And now, just like that, kill lead evened up.
A grave oversight from Rin, as he clearly just overestimated the amount of damage he was going to be able to have, even with the Ignite on top of it. Just thought that he had that all in the bag for himself, and it's unlucky for him to make that mistake this early in the game, as a lot of that mid lane pressure was alleviated because of Nathan. Rourke is now putting even more pressure on him, just hammering in the fact that he just got solo killed.
Rourke had ultimate. I'm curious to see what would have happened if he threw it there straight onto Rin. Maybe it would have had enough for the kill. Rin, speaking of which, has Edgewane's ultimate as well, so it's going to be a devastating combo if he can find it along with Nafe, but I have a feeling that Remy's going to be known a bit better. Speaking of which, looking around the map, looking at the bot side as well. Haven't seen too much aggression to the bot lane, but now in the mid lane.
Remy still has flash. If he needs it, he's going to try to flash it right now, but Nafe is already going to be able to secure the kill. The Infernal Chains will pull him right back into the turret, and the damage coming out from Rourke might be enough, but the ultimate comes out. Cosmic Binding, the Tempered Fate from Good Sir, but unfortunately the Cosmic Binding's a little too early. It's not going to lock up Rourke. He gets the flash away, and now T26 has made the roam, the counter, to be able to get there in time. Good Sir still ticking on the Ignite, does get Cosmic Binding up, but does he have enough? Oh, he's just going to flash over the wall. Says peace. A little bit of misexecution for both sides there.
Certainly moving on down. It was definitely a huge overplay there from a Good Sir. Tries to be the hero, and that's kind of duality of Bar, like we were saying before. It's the ability to lock down and the ability to save. Doesn't quite get the binding down to save Nafe in the mid lane, and almost gets himself killed. Spotify having to blow the ultimate, but that didn't actually take away the cooldown from Kanki, so it is still up. So you need to be really careful here. Gets it anyway. Alright, so you need to be really careful. You're trying to dodge away from the Caitlyn shot. If you cancel it before the ultimate goes off, she still gets it. You only can cancel it if it's already in midair, and unfortunately Spotify just misses the timing on it and pays the price in the end.
A lot of unlucky things coming in for Temporal Gaming. Misexecutions, very crucial that they do not have that happen, but T26 face checks, and Nafe and a Good Sirs are going to be able to get the kill super easily on top of them. Avoids the traps there as Nafe and Good Sir take the E over the wall. They're going to be able to get out safely, but Kank is still putting in the pressure and the damage onto them as they walk under the turret.
I'm still looking. I'm going in 2v1. As Sejuani.
Well, there's the Temper Fate. It's a little too late to save Rin's life, but Niv and Gidsir and Spotify guess they're just not going to be able to get there in time to be able to get something back for them.
Big moves, and with all that happening towards the bottom side, you need to take this back and remember where we were in those first two games and where we are now, because Nafe, sure, he's still making things happen in the early game. He ain't the only one anymore. Rourke has been having a phenomenal early game here in Game 3. Is 2-0-0. Remy trading blows with Rin, and Remy I think is definitely getting the better of it. But also in the bottom lane, Kanki having a fantastic game as well here on the bottom side, and you no longer in a position where Temporal Gaming is just winning the early game, and that can be huge for how these things turn over now into the mid game. Because I still think, straight up with the compositions, it's still easier to pull off the Dawn fight strategy of just engage, have tanks, and have an ADC.
Savage actually might be able to turn this one around on CP Freeze. The damage reduction is there, but the flawless duet stun is not going to be enough as Savage is actually able to outplay Freeze on the top side of the map.
And moving on up, and already Nafe is here as well, so priority is up to the top of the map. Maybe Herald's on the board, but no, mid lane as well. Going to be a point of contention. Is this going to be a 2 versus 2 once again? But with that, it looks like just a hard priority on the top lane as Freeze has already taken down Savage. Going to get some free push on up here, but it's got to be careful because TP is like going to be used from Freeze to get back to this wave. Oh no, he's actually going to walk. Already basically accepting he's lost the wave, so they're going to be walking up nonetheless.
Can only say that teleport for something more useful or a macro play on the other side of the map. As when we go back to what we were talking about in game 2, a lot of the real meaningful leads that have been netted by both teams in games 1 and 2 respectively were earned to the bottom lane. Right now, side of Dawn Esports through Kankle and D26 have that lead right now. They're putting the pain down onto the turret.
Oh, TP flank.
All TP flanks are coming in. Savage is going to get here first, and CP Freeze is not even phoning the teleport. It looks like he's just not going to opt it, and finally he's going to use it, but he's a little too late. But a good serve. Actually getting chunked out here. Dark Binding is going to land on the Savage. Is going to lock him down for the flawless duet stun. And even with the 3-man room from Spotify guest, it is not enough to be able to hold them back, as Nape wasn't even there for the fight.
Yeah, he's up on the top side, and while that was an aggressive thought coming up from Temporal Gaming, they just did not confirm which target that were going on, and Rin is going to pay the price as well as another member falls. Rourke not going to pay the price, but you had a TP coming through from Sandwich once again on the Camille. TP's in, can't decide whether to go on Kanki or T26, and by the time things reset from the Bard Ultimate Tempered Fate, there's nothing left to go for it. I mean, on the bright side, Nave's able to trade back for Herald, but losing first tower, losing that fight, losing a huge amount of momentum isn't quite a positive trade when all you get back is the Herald. And Nave, not sure if he called that last play, but something there just didn't quite line up for Temporal.
Yeah, it would definitely be a huge head scratcher if Nafe, who was the one that started the Rift Herald, said, you know what, guys, definitely go for a potential 4v5 on the other side of the map. I feel like that might have just been miscommunication, or they didn't account for where Nafe was, and they thought they were going to be okay. As Kankle does have the Black Shield, he's going to be able to prevent the stun from Hookshot, but Hextech Ultimatum still on the table. Kankle's going to pop the heal. Here comes the Void Rush, is going to try to sink his fangs in, looking for damage, flashing away. He's going to be able to avoid the turret aggro, as the rest of the members of Dawn Esports are now coming in for the fight, but Cosmic Binding will lock Rourke against the tower, but Remy is here, looking for the Flash Darking Blade, is going to miss it as he takes the Magical Journey away to safety. Nave is still on the run, still trying to run away from T26. He might be able to get out. It's just only a Morgana. It's not going to do that much damage, but the Glacial Crimson comes out. Rin will block it for his teammate, and he will be able to take the tunnel away, but Rin might die for the cause here, as we do see a good serve being taken down. Wait a minute, Rin! Look at the Godslayer being able to give him enough healing from the back, dodges the flash from Rourke, but he's getting so critically low, and it's not going to be enough. But Sandwich and Spotify guests are finally coming into the fight, and they're going to get the shutdown on the Rourke, and Sandwich looking to lock down Remy for the fight. The 2v1 should be in their favor, and that definitely will be. The Mastery 7 emote comes down, 2 shutdowns to Sandwich's name.
Temporal, quite frankly, get away with the murder with how well that play went, despite the overaggression, I think, on the top side. CP Freeze from Dawn Gaming and Dawn Esports is going to be able to answer back for something, and mid lane tower going to be going down to further accentuate the advantage of gold that Temporal just acquired. But the first dive looked very rushed, looked very unorganized. 3 members go over the wall. Nave fantastically able to lock down and get the kill, but that disengage looked a little bit sketchy, and if it wasn't for very, very fancy footwork coming out from multiple members of Temporal Gaming, I don't think that same advantage would exist. But we don't live in a theoretical world, we live in here and now, and here and now is when Temporal just evened up the scoreline with that dive.
I think it's easy to say that a lot of shiz happened right there on the top side of the map, and it might take a couple minutes for us to really decompress, what is really the effects of those. But so far, I believe 2 turret was taken in favor for Dawn Esports, and still objective lead is somewhat in favor of Dawn, as they've taken a majority of the bottom side of the map, whereas for Temporal Gaming, they've opened up the mid lane, they've opened up the top lane. Structural damage is still in favor, however, of Dawn, and they have the pressure with the Caitlyn Morgana to be able to siege here. But the question is, if they can find those isolated skirmishes, once again, at least in favor of Temporal Gaming, they might be able to turn around this momentum.
And well, now we are getting over the margin into the mid game. Now is actually where we have to see if anyone has to prove something right now. It is Temporal, that they can keep fighting, that they can keep this game going without just stomping the early game, because now they're getting pushed in, they're getting split pushed on. Sandwich, of course, big lead in the top lane, has no tower he's going to be taking in a very short time. Same thing going for Freeze on the bottom side. It's going to be coming down to who can throw these fights around and who can land them first. And good sir with the Bard is going to be a huge portion of this of can we find some picks out. Otherwise, standard team fighting definitely goes the way Dawn Esports, especially with a 3-kill Caitlyn. Almost onto that second item very shortly in a Trinity Force not too far away for Freeze.
Definitely needs the Trinity Force to be able to at least combat against Sandwich. He might be strong enough to be able to deal with Rin, but he does have the Proto Belt and the Ninja Tabby, so he has that one solid item power spike for himself. But in terms of Remy, Remy has definitely been super volatile throughout this whole series. In Game 1, we saw how effective he was, even despite the amount of pressure he was receiving. But in Game 2, a lot of miscommunication between him and Rourke were not able to successfully gain the leads that they were looking for these dives. And now, mid lane, he was able to capitalize on Rin's mistakes in lane and try to assist as much as he can in these skirmishes. But, I really want to see Remy step up his gameplay, because it seems like between him and Kankle, these are the guys that you're going to have to be looking for to turn up things in these fights.
Yeah, certainly Kanky going to be a big portion of that. Sandwich with a big lead top lane. Going to be trying to solo out, but here comes the support.
Nathan's waiting for the bait, and here comes the Void Rush. Not enough damage coming in quite yet. Sandwich is looking for it. Meanwhile, on the other side of the map, as Sandwich does finally get the kill under Remy, Freeze is going to go down to the side of the Bard, Good Sir, and Rin. Temper Fade is going to come in, and it might buy Rin enough time to be able to escape from Rourke as his damage dealer is done. Sandwich did fall, however, on the other side of the map, but so far, Temporal Gaming making split cross-play fights, and for the most part, coming out on top.
Yeah, they're able to find pieces here, and once again, it's preventing the front line standing in front of just these standard ADCs, preventing this front-to-back team fight that they excel at so well. And this is where Temporal keeps the game moving forward, but even so, they don't get any direct advantages off it. All they do is push the gold leads a little bit further, but still only 200 gold in advantage. Maybe that jumping back and only 1 to 200 based on the cans being taken. They need to keep accelerating this game because these advantages won't last forever. Jungle, big thing they were talking about was, can Nave stay relevant all throughout the game? And that's starting to look good. Sandwich, can he make the split push work? He's been in a situation where game number 1, Sandwich looked like he was going to win the game by being the split pusher on Camille. Didn't work out because the macro calls were very, very far from ideal. Can that be turned around now? Otherwise, these undefeated giants, Dawn Esports, who still have not lost a series this entire Risen Champions League long, down to finals, going to be looking to keep that record, and definitely a Goliath in the other guy's story. I forget what his name is. Either way, it's an uphill battle, and we'll have to see whether Temporal Gaming are up to the challenge. Good sir, maybe looking for a pick here. He's got the support from Nave.
Hit the stun. Only going to get the slow, no stun for him, and it looks like Rourke does secure the Scuttle Crab. So no pick will be had there on the river, as Dark Binding was looking for Ivy Garden, but he's able to hug the walls very close. So, but this mid turret with the amount of minions that are coming in and the pressure that's coming in from Dawn Esports surely will fall.
And this is the difference between taking the Xayah and the Sivir. The Sivir here can very easily wave clear, where Xayah has to stand a little bit further back. Xayah, though, would be safer in those teamfight scenarios. So that is the trade that you go back and forth with, and given that they get the Xayah, they do lose that mid lane tower. And right here with TPG, they have to find other ways of staying relevant in the game. They don't have the Rise, they don't have the Sivir super late game scaler, so Sandwich still going to be that main mark. And you're even seeing Sandwich here isn't really confident enough to push up and put Freeze under a tower now that the Trinity Force has been completed in items. Pretty close to even.
This time around, Sandwich, in Game 1, he went for the Ravage Cypher to be able to deal with the sustain that Remy was bringing on that Aatrox. This time, It looks like he might actually go for the Titanic Hydra unless the Ruby Crystal Longsword build into Asterix Gauge just to give him a little bit more ability. Some of these 1v1s are potentially team fights and skirmishes if he's able to come in and roam, but
Savage has a huge lead right here, and it's constantly kind of shocking to see them not want to play around this. Like, that's a 2k lead, the boots are already completed, you have multiple components, Savage has a 2-level advantage, and they're just not willing to take advantage of it. And as long as CP Freeze holds this wave under tower, there is no advantage on the map for TPG other than Nave if he just goes ahead and finds it somewhere to kill on his own.
you can see the damage that comes out from Savage. I mean, he just literally chunked a third of CP Freeze itself off of that one empowered Q. Tactical precision with the Trinity Force just does so much true damage, and Freeze has to go to the crutch to try and sustain back up. This will give Savage enough time to be able to take down this turret.
Yeah, and finally, that's going to be the breakthrough that they needed. He's playing very far back because he knows that Nave could be around, and not rather, Nave, the Rourke could be around on the vision. But gets one tower. Baron now 21 minutes into game number 3. Next here on the board, T26 trying to make a move on in. Has Black Shield.
Tempered Fate comes in to try and save Nave's life, and it definitely will. The Tuttle comes out, and Nave doesn't even have to use the Void Rush to try and avoid enough of the damage. The Ignite and the Soul Shackles did come out from T26 to try and find that pick. Fortunately, for the side Temporal game, the jungler will live.
And now pushing back on the bottom side, and this split advantage should benefit Temporal, because as long as the main power squad of Dawn does not get an engage, Temporal will have the advantage on that split push. And with the vision, you need to be aggressive enough that if they send multiple members down to deal with Sandwich on the bottom side, you are ready to take a Baron, you're ready to take a fight somewhere else. And it's this catch-22 that does become the split push game that it really needs to start emphasizing. But as that does happen, multiple more members from Dawn Esports, they're getting a team fight status. You have the second item now be completed onto Remy, you have 2 items now being completed onto Kanki. And if you can just hold these advantages and you finally force a 5-on-5 fight, that is potentially game over.
And on the side of the token, go back to the fact that Savage has to increase the split push as Remy, unfortunately for him, tries to get the speed boost from the World Ender. He's not going to find the Narc up onto Rin, as he's going to be able to safely get out. Go back to the split push advantage for Savage. He can pull multiple members on the other side of the map. The problem is, though, I don't think Temporal Gaming are in a spot that they could take and rush down the Baron. They don't have Mountain Dragon. Their AD carry is on 1.5 items at the moment. Maybe with the Infinity Edge they could take it down, but it's still potentially risky, and it might not be fast enough depending on how well Savage is able to outplay.
Oh, look at this top play. Rourke has already moved up thinking that he has the advantage, but now this could easily turn into a fight. Hold off.
Yeah, and he gifts the Glacial Prison over to Rin. Now that's a super volatile, very important team fighting tool to have on your side of the fight as well.
And down here to the bottom lane, you're seeing the split push once again, and Savage is being held at bay, this time by Remy. Big difference is Remy has no teleport to come to a fight, but also what Remy doesn't have is a Bard hanging out in the area, but I think that's just really going to be for the looks of that one. If Temporal Gaming want to keep this game moving at a pretty decent pace, you have to force a fight here. You have to take the TP disadvantage into your advantage. We also have to be aware of the Bard, because Bard, what he does is he slows down the game, slows down some of these fights, and gotta make sure that you're not almost shooting yourself in the foot by giving Remy time to go ahead and join these fights.
And we've definitely seen the effect of that from a good Sir already. Some Tempered Fates were not so ideal, and then
Savage is not gonna. Savage is now just waiting for Remy to offer himself on a platter. He is not going to do that. If you want to take advantage of the side lane, you need to be willing to press the advantage.
You're so mad.
I am. It's because it's flip push. It's fine. Everything's fine. Look at that.
Look at the damage, and he
can look at Remy
gonna go
dead.
down. Oh, he missed it. He actually could have potentially sold him right on the tower during his shot. Return tilted. Unlucky.
Yeah. Either way, I guess he'll move at his own place. And realistically, it's just giving more time for the carries of Dawn to start scaling on up. Of course, Spotify is looking to catch on up. Rin is looking to recover from what was a pretty lackluster early game. But now with that extra gold under his belt, obviously now 50 CS up on his direct lane opponent, just due to some of the pushing out. All this is doing for Temporal is trying to starve one member out at the cost of 4 others. And I don't know if that's a trade you want to make, because I don't know if you just by taking Remy out of the game macro-wise, that gives you enough advantage to win here. Because this game state hasn't changed in 5 minutes now. Ever since Baron came up, nothing has changed.
Yeah.
And Dawn, who like to play that slower style where they wait for the other team to make that mistake, are going to be very happy with that.
And if Sandwich were netting more of an advantage through the split push, we would be having a very different conversation about how Dawn Esports has failed to answer the immense split push pressure, but it's not really immense split push pressure. Sandwich just casually pokes on Remy, and maybe it's just nerves, maybe it's just fear of losing the game or misplaying. He already had the potentially solo kill misplay in game 1, so maybe he's just fearing that. And already you're seeing some misplays coming out as he doesn't dodge the Temporal chains, but the other side of the map, there's a fight breaking out. T26 getting critically low, and Nave comes in with the chilling smite, but meanwhile Sandwich is now in a bad spot. The ignite comes out from Remy, already using the flash and the ignite. A flash of own from Sandwich will come out, and he finally will escape, even though the ignite doesn't kill him. It was on the very last tick, very critically low, double digits on his health bar, but T26 being taken down, huge potentially for Temporal Gaming, a Spotify guest. A lot of damage from Kankly.
Yeah, big damage, can't make anything happen there, and when you do take 2 tower shots for no reason whatsoever, that does tend to happen. Ultimate though still being up, Remy blows the ultimate, the flash, and the ignite, so potentially now Savage does have the ultimate advantage if he does want to go for that split scenario, but the stall still continues for Temporal Gaming. And now Dragon, number 4, which will be
welcome back. Yeah, apparently Joe is AFK on Discord and so they moved him, but we're back in the action. Sorry, folks. Meanwhile, Mountain Dragon is being secured here by the side of Temporal Gaming.
even the Discord's getting a little bit tired of this one and wants to shake things up one way or another, but it does seem the Champions League final will be getting a little bit more interesting, as that's the Baron going over, and Nate is just in the mid lane right now. He's not going to be here in time.
And he throws out the Vanguard's Edge, trying to potentially steal it, but Rourke actually didn't even use the smite, so it could have potentially been stolen. And now they're trying to stall recalls here. Only a couple successfully able to recall. Sandwich is trying to get the split push down with the inhibitor going down, and now he's going to try to lock up Cankle. Does have the Hex ultimatum, is able to dodge one Darkened Blade, but gets hit up by the other one. He's going to go down. Cankle will survive. On the other side of the map, Dawn Esports potentially looks to turn this around. I take that back. Temporal Gaming have this one in the bag. Rourke trying to flash away. Does have the Black Shield to be able to dodge the CC. Crowd control comes out with the Glacial Prison as Rin was able to throw it out. No one gets stunned up, however. Baron still secured for the side of Dawn Esports, and favor will go to them naturally. Sandwich does open up the map, however, as why are you guys still staying? Temporal Gaming, to take the damn magical journey out, please!
Yeah, I'm not really sure on this one. Rourke Connor going to give chase here on the top of the map, and here's Remy.
Oh, but a great classical play, but the Infernal Chain still pulls back Spotify. I guess he didn't have flash to be able to dodge that, and T26 finding another pick onto a good Sir. He's gonna lock him down. Magical Journey comes out, and the Ignite forcing the flash away from him as well. Ren is able to survive with the skin of his teeth, but Dawn Esports finally finding some life in this game to be able to come back.
And Dawn knew that they just had to wait for some movement around the map. When they saw their opening, they were not afraid to take it. And just like that, they catch TPG, they catch Temporal on terrible positioning. They all go down to take the Dragon Ball. They're going to go ahead and take Baron Nashor. And now they're pushing on in this top side. Spotify, their ADC, down for 8 more seconds. They can start this siege up, especially with Decay in it. They also got the push coming through with CP3s in the mid lane.
Nave is going to go right in, and he has GA, but he gets a Glacial Prison right to the face. Rin does find the upscot knockdown right onto the front line. Temper Fate is going to lock down a couple members for a bit. Kankle is right in the arms. The Cosmic will land, and there is the shutdown for Sandwich. Actually, it goes over to Spotify. Guess he takes down his rival. Sandwich getting a shutdown of his own onto Rourke, and Dawn Esports were looking to push aggressively with that Baron buff, but they lose 3 members.
And that means there's only going to be 1 member of Dawn Esports remaining with the Baron buff, and they're caught once again with with an overextension in the top lane, and this time it's Remy. It's rather, I flip it over, it's Nave who sees that they have to go in for the fight, that they know that TP Freeze is split off on the play, and they have the ADC coming. He jumps on in, has the GA, so it doesn't matter, and just like that, they find some advantage back, and it's only going to be how far can they take this? Multiple members, single digits away from respawning on the side of Dawn, rather. TP's coming in, so they are committing to this one.
They're able to get the inhibitor turret, but I don't think they should stay any longer. All the members of Dawn Esports have now finally revived. They're back up on the table to combat once again. Things are getting so tense here returned. I would hate to be in Kelly X's shoes or Machuca's shoes or the owner for Temporal Gaming, because right now they are looking at this game. It's only game 3, only 1-1. This is a match point, but things are just so damn nerve-wracking already.
Yeah, I think that the fact that this is a finals drastically changes the feeling around this game. You're seeing some nerves, you're seeing everything coming on in, and especially for TPG, who is this new upstart who are trying to, be the underdogs coming on the way through, they are choking at times when they need to be executing. And Dawn, coming back around, are using that experience, they're being calm, they're making the plays they need to. Still some overextensions coming in left and right, but they're willing to make these plays, and I still believe that Dawn are in a superior position, despite the fact that TPG do have the gold lead. And still, the scaling of the team fighting members from Dawn are going to be there when they need it. No inhibitors went down on the last play, and Savage does lose the TP, and we have seen what happens before. When Savage misses the TP in a late game scenario, things do not end well.
So just even more important and critical here, as another win for either of these teams puts them 1 step closer to hoisting that title for the summer split, or the spring split of Risen 2019 champions. That $780 prize pool. So much is on the line for both of these teams, and even just material things aside, the pride, the ability to be able to be proud and look back on yourself after this.
What is this movement coming through? Savage is coming bot. He's going to draw the rest of the members from Dawn. There's no way Savage gets out of this life. That's physically impossible. This man gets out scot-free. Beautiful binding.
Oh, Savage goes right into the Dark Bindings, and he used the Hextech Ultimatum along with the Flash to try and buy as much time as he can, but even with the Stairx gauge, it's not going to matter at all. The shutdown comes out from Kankle. They're going to be able to take down Savage. He does get inhibitor on the bot side of the map, but he's now down for almost 47 seconds. A dragon is up on the table for the taking, but they could be looking for more.
Looking for something, and Savage once again being the biggest member of the team, just above Nave here in the kill count. But of course, Nave in the goal count as well by nearly 2,000. Being down does reduce a lot of the ability to play around this map. 25 seconds on the dragon, 26 seconds on Savage, plus Savage does not have the teleport, means that they could be susceptible to a Baron rush, but no, they have side lanes they need to answer to, and now they are all backing off away here with just 10 seconds remaining on the Baron. Spotify is definitely not in the correct spot if they want to rush this one down, but Baron control going to fall back into the hands of TPG.
That's another Cloud Dragon for the side of Temporal, which means it's going to give them the ability to rotate around the map faster, and along with Magical Journeys from Bard, definitely helps out a lot, especially when you have this split push game going, as well as you can have for Savage. He's now respawned. CP Freeze is on the bottom side of the map. They're going to start up the Baron killing.
This is really aggressive. CP Freeze does not get established priority on the bot side. He's TPing early. This could be disastrous, but Dawn, they need to win this fight.
They're peeling off the Baron. They're going to try to go over to the strong side, over to CP Freeze. Glacial Prison is going to lock down Savage there. He gets over the wall, and so far, none of the other members of Temporal Gaming have been touched. Beautiful Tempered Fate is going to lock down Remy, potentially for a kill. Spotify will take him down, but now they're stratified all over the damn place in this jungle. Void Rush is going to come out, try to dive as much time, but look at Spotify. He is ripping apart Dawn Esports to the ground. He gets
an
a
ace.
quadra kill, and that's going to be game 3 going over to Temporal Gaming.
And just when I criticize Temporal Gaming for making the rush plays and praise Dawn Gaming for their discipline under pressure, it completely flips. The script is gone. Freeze teleports into play way early, and just like that, Game 3 of the Champions League Finals will be going over to Temporal Gaming.
Match point is now on the line for Temporal Gaming. Dawn Esports, their backs are against the wall. If they don't win Game 4, this will be Temporal Gaming's title to be claimed here. So many things have to be considered, not only in the draft phase, but also game execution. You said it before return. We talked about one of main strengths for Dawn Esports is their ability to be able to play under pressure, to play calmly and collected in those moments. But you look at that play, what just happened with the TP from CP Freeze? You just have to scratch your head on that one.
Yeah, there's no way that play turns out well. You have the split push with the TP advantage. As long as you stick around the Baron, that's fine. All you have to do is keep the side of Dawn Esports from taking that Baron. Your split pusher has the advantage. But the second that you start the Baron, and your split pusher is not in a position to take towers or take inhibitor or take anything, you just negate any amount of pressure, and the TP adds insult to injury. Big plays coming through, and I think Gods had a fantastic ultimate there to basically kill off Remy himself. Great positioning as well from Spotify guest, who's able to clean up the team fight quite nicely, and just the whole team really coming together. But either way, that was a big head scratcher from Dawn, and now you are out of second chances. This is it. This is the last game you have to defend your undefeated season when you are 1-2 down in the best of 5 grand finals.
It just puts Dawn in a super difficult position, a position that they have arguably never have been in before, at least not with the stakes this high before. We're going to have to see how well they can adapt and potentially bring it to Game 5 for Silver Scrapes once this intermission is cut to a close, ladies and gentlemen, as we're going to take a quick break and refuel our batteries for Game 4 in just a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, it's game 4 time, and TPG and Dawn do not want to wait around any longer as the draft phase once again has been started. Yasuo being taken off the table.
Dawn may want to stick around a little bit longer, like maybe one game longer, but they're going to be looking for silver scrapes here. Yeah, TPG. Yasuo. Yeah.
I believe that is one of Freeze's most picked, if not most comfortable champions, so they're just banning it out of respect. But the Silas, as soon as Dawn Esports lets it on the table one game, they immediately realize, or they say, you know what, that was a bad idea. Let's just take it off the table once again.
And Dawn has been the team that's been leaving it up every time. Even when they're on blue side, they wouldn't pick it and then ban it off in the next rotation. So it's not in their interest to keep this champion up on the table. Aatrox, of course, still being that top one. Dawn going to ban it away as well.
Pike.
Lee Sin and Nidalee are still up. Pike, however, falls away at Temporal.
Oh, I didn't even think about Nidalee being up. That is definitely a champion that has been banned away from Nafe all series long. But considering we know how strong Nafe is on the Nidalee champion, but it is a very high risk, high reward. We have definitely seen the reward end of it in the Semantic series, but he did quite well on the Rek'Sai. He did quite well on the Lee Sin, both arguably which are stronger in terms of just more flexibility and being able to use around for multiple team compositions for TPG, but it is something to be considered in this draft as the Ryze and the Xayah do get locked in for Dawn Esports.
Yeah, the Ryze, of course, being that flexible pick, it's what can sometimes keep TPG in the game. Dawn going to be coming around with it this time. The Jinx has been something we've been alluding to for quite a while. It's that safe pick in the bottom lane. It brings some of the best from everything, but still leaves areas to be desired. It's not the best at self-peeling, but if you're looking for a team fighting ADC, look no further. Jinx, and also this is the Jinx kid, basically, here for Temporal Game. It's going on a Spotify guest who's quite well renowned, known for the Jinx play. Nidalee left open as well. So TPG are basically getting their pick of the litter. But once again, and definitely going to have to look towards the top side and mid side picks, but there still are no tanks for the Jinx to fight behind. The engage is still incredibly lacking, and the power pick that Temporal get can't distract them from what they still need to fill out the comp.
And the Alistar could be the lock-in for Dawn Esports to be able to fight back against this aggressive Pike Jinx in the bot lane here. And that's going to provide them a lot of engaged potentials, a lot of disengaged potentials as well. And even with the damage reduction ulti, the Alistar doesn't need that many items to be super tanky. He just pops the ulti in for 6-7 seconds. He's going to be the one-man front line that you need to be able to rally for these full-on 5-on-5 team fights. But I know you were looking at this composition with a skeptical eye so far returned, and you know I don't disagree with you on that, but it has to be known that these are basically their most comfortable champions. Pike for a good Sir, Jinx for Spotify Guest 27, and Nidalee for Nafe. They are looking to end the series right here, right now, on their star champions. So they are looking.
But Dawn are looking to make a run back to game number 1. It was the same idea. Power picks for TPG, but not a cohesive unit. And do note, though, that Dawn still haven't picked a jungler. TPG are doing nothing to ban those away. Sejuani now going to be falling on away. I think that's a good ban. So we'll have to see what the adaptation is going to be, as finally it's not going to be on the Sedge. But for Dawn Esports, it's still traditional team fight. And if my return.gg stats tell me anything, Xayah still has a 100% win rate. Kindred going to be bringing us a little bit more damage this time out of the jungle instead of the tankiness we have been expecting basically the entire time through. But Kindred versus Nidalee definitely favors Nidalee when it comes to who wins those invades. May come down a little bit more to who's shoving out some of these lanes. Ryze, of course, being that big factor here. They're already seeing Xayah. Alistar is certainly having a lot of potential for not only kills, but shoving. Obviously, what falls through for TPG Mundo. It's really an interesting one. Still not really bringing the engage that you would expect, but as we've seen, can be a huge menace just in being a giant frontline.
If we go back to the Semantic series returned and we were doubting all these drafts, we just talked about, you know what, sometimes comfort will just prevail over many things that logically should be inferior here, as the Zoe is going to be the lock-in for Rin. And this Nidalee Kindred matchup is super volatile. Nidalee heavily depends on that spear landing from Fog of War to be able to get that huge burst damage, to be able to just assassinate Rourke before he has a chance to be able to fight back.
Yeah.
But if he has the range advantage, he could potentially kite out and out DPS Nidalee. It just depends. It's so volatile. Anything can happen, and it's going to come down to individual mechanics. And this is the first time that we've seen Rourke step out of that tank role, that team role, and say, all right, guys, I think it's time for me to be in a carry role this time around. And the Urgot is going to be the final lock-in as well.
Yeah, I think the game plan now from Dawn is very straightforward. As you see the Zoe, as you see the Nidalee, there's only one thing to do, and it is engage. Shut down Zoe, shut down Nidalee. Don't let them get this Pokemon, because if, as we're expecting, if Nave finds an advantage in the early game, if mid lane's able to hold up fine, Zoe Nidalee is a devastating combo if you just stand there. Your Alistar tank ain't going to be a tank too much longer, and with that advantage, you should be able to look to shut down a Kindred and all such sorts of things. So it's going to be a very dangerous early game, and any sort of lead could be devastating for Dawn to try to defend against. But once again, it is slowing the game down. It is getting a team fight going. Not sure if Urgot is what I would go for, just because I don't think you need to try to win the top lane. I think you're just trying to be, once again, an engaged threat. And maybe another thing to help out the Alistar would be ideal, but it's what they're going to go for. It gives them maybe a little bit more security around playing around the Kindred, and it's certainly something that they're going to be looking to emphasize on and try to get Remy on that winning matchup.
And as we're getting into the pick and ban phase, I'm pretty sure we know where all these picks are going to go, but there is always the potential that we see an Urgot and Ryze flexed around. We have seen in the past Urgot mid lane exist before, and it has been definitely a hot minute since we've actually seen Urgot picked competitively, ever since he did receive a lot of those tweaks and changes to how his core build really should operate. He's not as tanky as he gets to be without also doing all that damage. He now has to basically pick one or the other. It's not a all-you-can-eat buffet this time around.
Certainly, I mean, he still is a bruiser, but it is now much more of a elongated form. You take the Conquer, your W is basically a toggle ability at later levels, and you're just trying to be that raid boss at the end of the match. But when you're looking at lane assignments, I'd still very much expect the Ryze to be matched up head into the Zoe, because Zoe is very immobile. Despite the ultimate, you can lock her down quite quickly, and maybe even setting up for Rourke, especially if you get a red buff, going in for some ganks on the Zoe pretty early, try to shut that lane down. Urgot into Mundo, you're getting some consistent damage, expect the Executioner's calling, and somebody that can just try to whittle down Mundo over time. And somebody who's not just going to evaporate if you go in for a elongated fight.
Right, absolutely. And one thing that I do like that TPG have done is that in the past when they've drafted the Nidalee, they didn't really have a lot of synergies going for the Nidalee, whether it's the single target lockdown for those easy spears, or if it's the likes of extra sustain or poke. But this time they have the Zoe Rin on Zoe here. So if you land a Sleepy Trouble Bubble, either you combo that into the Paddle Star or a spear, depending on who is more fed at that point of the game, and you could potentially just one-shot someone from Fog of War.
You certainly can, and I think that's definitely got to be the game plan for TPG, because you can't realistically look to fight with this composition unless you're just far enough ahead that it doesn't matter. Sure, Jinx is a good team fighter, but you don't have control to keep her alive unless Mundo is giant. The Jinx is a good additive. If Jinx is the only one who's fed, it's not going to win you the game. But if you have a frontline in this composition, if you have a poke game, the Jinx is a nice addition to it that provides an additional threat. And I know that's really weird to say that a Jinx isn't the main carry, given that Jinx is probably one of the best hyper carry ADCs in the game. But with the way they're looking to play this comp, it is still that poke. It is still that find one kill and then make a move around the map.
And everyone is also on their comfort picks, remind you, as well. So if you're going to have a good game, this is the game to do it. And for Dawn Esports, this is not quite do or die, but if they lose this, then they lose it all. But if they win this, they still have one more game to bring it back for that title win here, for that prize pool. And so they need to not have any more mistakes from here on out. Game 4, potentially Game 5, everything has to be near perfect or just better than what Temporal Gaming has to offer as well.
Yeah, I think that this is really going to boil down to what can be done in the early game. What can Dawn hold on to? Because like you said, this is the most aggressive early game we have seen. Mundo, which did a fantastic job in the game that was over for Temporal. Nidalee, the most notorious champions for Knave. Sure, he's been doing Grand Lee Sin, but oh my god, versus Semantic. That's why Dawn has banded out up until now, and they've decided that this is the pick that they want to let through. Zoe, aggressive poke in the mid lane. Pyke letting it through with the rotations, and then Jinx, pew pew gun up against once again. What I would keep saying is a more traditional 1.5 tank front line. You have 2 ADC threats. You have 1 magic damage dealer, and it's going to be all about bringing the game back and not throwing away the game on 1 or 2 TP plays.
Couple things to watch out for in this very tense game 4, as we will take a quick intermission as we get ready for Summoner's Rift and everything to be synced up on the broadcast ends. But don't turn off that browser, folks. This could be the last game of the series, and we don't want you to miss it. So stick around. We'll be back in a couple minutes. Stakes are high on the Summoner's Rift, ladies and gentlemen, as we are now in Game 4. This is match point for Temporal Gaming, and this is potentially Dawn Esports' last game on the Rift. They need to win this one so that they can get themselves to Game 5 and one step closer to that title.
Yeah, Dawn Esports are going to be starting this one off with the Invade, and Jungle is certainly a matchup we're going to have to keep all eyes peeled onto because it is Nafe on the champion that's been against him for 3 games in a row in the Italy. The sheer aggression levels of this pick are monumental. Going to be trying to fight with one of the safer, one of the more scaling-oriented early games, one of the more scaling oriented junglers in the game. It's the Kindred coming up from Rourke, so going to be a quick game of 4D chess to see how Nate's going to go ahead and play around some of these marks that you think Rourke's going to go to them each. Does Rourke know that, Nidalee has the advantage, so just avoid them and make a play somewhere else, knowing that Nate's going somewhere else as well? And there's a lot that can be done with this jungle matchup, but one thing's for certain, if Nate gets a lead, that could be it. Interesting move here. Wait, hold on, is that... Those 2 Oracle lenses already, Nafe and Rin, both have Oracle lenses already in the game.
T26 and Kanki were looking for a potential cheese on the bottom side of the map, but now they know that their jungler did definitely start on the top side, or at least solo leash himself, as the bot lane wouldn't have been that early, very far up in lane. But, going back to the Oracle lenses, I'm not sure if they were able to take out any wards there on Esports, but both of these junglers starting on the top side of the map.
Yeah, I'm almost wondering if it is a strategy from Rennie, because you want him, from Rin rather, to make sure that mid lane is always going to be gankable, because anytime that Freight Source on a ward, you easily have a sweeper for it. So maybe it's trying to open up Nafe for that play. Looking at Vision score, it does seem like Rin was able to pick up something with those early wards, but looking back around the map, another thing that we were talking about before, and we definitely got to mention, Spotify guest has in fact taken teleport.
We were talking about off air that you're not a big fan of the teleport for Jinx, especially when the Pyke has to go heal flash instead of the typical ignite flash.
Yeah, the main thing to look at for here is whether you take TP on an ADC is whether you can get out of any sort of fight, whether you want to have kill pressure, whether the other team has kill pressure. Because when you take TP, you are sacrificing your kill pressure, sacrificing your safety in response for better farm, for more time up in the lane. And when you're playing with something like a Pyke, and when the other team has the kill pressure of the Alistar and the Xayah, that is an incredibly greedy trade to make. And sure, Jinx is safe. She is not safe against the Xayah and Rakan. So we'll have to see whether that trade-off's going to be worth it, whether or not Dawn can take advantage of it, because it's going to be down to whether T26 and Kanki are able to find those engages and use their combat summoner advantage to the advantage.
Point. Now there is a ward on the bottom brush there, so even though Good Sir does have lane priority along with the Spotify guest, it does prevent him from being able to make Fog of War plays with Bone Skewer or the Phantom Undertow. And at this point right now, Spotify guest is just comfortable, not necessarily going for kills, just ensuring that he can get his item power spikes when he needs to, so that when the time comes for those mid-game skirmishes, he'll be ready.
Yeah, gonna be trying to find absolutely anything early. Jungling does seem to be going pretty smoothly. Of course, early advantage from Nafe as he is able to go. I believe that's actually the double Scuttle Crab start, so that's where that AHCS advantage does originate from for Nafe. He did, however, miss the Krug, so he'll be slightly down on that potential for the XP, but is currently up in XP. Thanks, of course, once again, to the Scuttle Crabs being taken. Rourke, though, hovering on the top side, maybe looking for something up here. Does he have the red buff? That is my question for now. He does not, so gank ability may be going quite down, and that means Nafe should have the advantage to look for.
Well, on the top side of the map, Savage actually does have a nice CS lead for himself as well, and so far, it seems like that is the majority of where the gold advantage is, as Nafe sneaking around to the bottom side of the map as the sweeper is going to be able to see that there is no ward in that bush, but they still know that there is one in the farther bush, so Nafe cannot approach into that one quite yet. But if T26 face checks, this could be something big for Temporal.
Yeah, it's going to be all about can Goodser find the engagement. That should look suspicious that he's walking up right here. T26 isn't going to catch it out.
And he gets the bone skewer away, but the spear flies right through T26. Maybe a visual bug, I'm not sure. But first blood, it doesn't matter. Once again, goes over to Spotify Guest 27, and Temporal Gaming have the start that they wanted.
And T26 gets caught going over aggressive right off the start. Spotify Guest on the Jinx picking up that first kill is pretty big. And I'm also realizing here what she started with in the bottom side, because that is a cull on the Jinx to start the game. And that is the most passive early game I have ever seen here. But now Nave.
Oh, and the cleanse comes out from CP Freeze. Doesn't want to take too much damage. Meanwhile, Nave getting counter ganked by Rourke here, and the flash comes out. And despite it, Nave cannot escape from the root and the damage from Rourke.
That was a very aggressive move there. Nave was known to be on the top side of the jungle. The control word did catch him on out, and that is giving quite a bit of gold now over to Rourke. And even more, it gives priority. Not enough, of course, for Rourke to go grab that drop, which is on the top side. Speaking of which, I think that Goodser is expecting a move up to this top side, so that's going to be support Pike roaming up to the top side of the map, leaving Jinx all by her lonesome. The disadvantage you had in the early game is kind of wiped out as you start with the cult, and now you have a BF sword in the laning phase, so a lot of that early game has made up for now. But look at this flanking route coming out from T26. He's looking onto Rin, who does have the flash and the cleanse. No more cleanse.
Yeah, Goodser is actually on the top side of the map as well. Teleport's gonna come in. Jinx teleport comes into play. Just wants to be there in case anything happens. Remy also burns his own teleport. T26 looking for the flank. Is gonna flash right onto Spotify Guest. Has to flash away from Remy trying to go in with the E. And now, looks like both teams are just gonna kite this one out. No further aggression is really needed, but red buff is potentially in favor of Temporal Gaming.
This is just a massive move across the map, and that's Nave getting a pretty sizable advantage now, stealing away the red buff. And that is the early game power of TPG asserting their dominance. Now moving on to Remy. They still have Jinx, who's not backed yet.
Savage still has the ultimate. He's popping it right now. The Ignite is not there to be able to take him down. And Savage is going to be able to pop Rourke despite the flash. I believe he flashed into the wall, or he used it earlier. Just wasn't able to escape on top of that. T26 is asleep only for a little bit. Palistar is not going to find his mark, but a spear will chunk him down.
Wow, all right, so that was a lot happening.
Yeah.
In a very short amount of time. I think Dawn should really just kind of give up this side of the jungle, as they do not have the advantage in any way, shape, or form. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've not already, please bring out your sombreros. This is some good old-fashioned NA Clown Fiesta, but at the end of the day, once the confetti does settle, it is a sizable lead now, not only with the extra kill, but with the advantages, with the neutral objective as well. For Temporal Gaming, they have the pressure right now. They have the stronger pick at this point in the game. They are leveraging it, even if it does mean sacrificing a little bit of farm for Spotify Guest. It will be made up, but now Dragon, everything calming back down, and Rourke looking for the Dragon. Doesn't quite find the steal on the Jinx ultimate, but Rourke is very happy to walk away with at least some neutral objective show for the early game.
Goodser did walk over a ward before he stealthed through the Phantom Waters. He's got to be careful walking up. He's got to know that they're in that bush. Please, you're giving us anxiety here. I guess he was just waiting for them. He knew that they had to be in the bush since they went into Fog of War and then magically disappeared.
Yeah, so thankfully Goodser doesn't seem to be a goldfish at this point in time. Does grasp the concept of object permanence, so when they went into the bush and then didn't come out of the bush, they probably are still bush. But even with that, that was actually a good amount of vision now put down to the bottom side by Dawn. They had that big power strike going up to the tops of the map. TPG took control of everything in that top side jungle, so what do Dawn do in response? They take the enemy's bottom side jungle in. You know, exact power levels are debatable. More gold still to Nate just because of the CS, because of the extra kill. But early game, still rolling very healthily right now from TPG, and it's going to be down to Dawn to absorb these next few plays and make sure that first tower doesn't fall, to make sure that too much else doesn't fall over, and if anything, maybe even start to punish Spotify here for the lack of summoners.
Goodser just getting a little bit of poke onto Cankle, but Bone Skewer not going to do enough damage as he does not have any damage items quite yet. He rushed the mobility boost as well as the Targon's Brace to be able to get more procs for the sustain in this lane, as well as to be able to get some of that vision down once he does complete the 500 gold mark on that support item. We take a look on the other side of the map. We have to look at this matchup once against Sandwich. We've questioned the Mundo pickup before, but it really must be a very comfortable pick for him because he's able to get these dominating CS leads and he's able to just handle this lane out so damn well, even in a matchup that isn't typically, you would think, should be Mundo favored.
Yeah, moving on over. Good Sir is moving up. I'm just gonna get a quick wrap around his Rourke is spotted there in that bottom side jungle, meaning he's going to be able to go in once again for some invasion. Going to take away the Raptors, but still not that's quite the same level of aggression. Rourke will be trying to go ahead and take that. Oh, look at the damage already.
Oh! Bam! One more can be said return.
I wasn't of all the things I thought was going to kill, I wasn't expecting the Jinx ultimate out of nowhere just come on and boof him out, but either way, it works. Well, we'll take it by any means necessary, and that's a big pick as Rourke does get put down once more. How many stacks are we looking at here so far, Rourke? I believe he's got at 2. Remember, of course, wait, is that the right thing I'm looking at here? So yep, 2 marks to the Kindred. Not terrible for the early game. Would like to start scaling up more towards 5 or 6 before the teamfights really do begin. Good pullback, good damage, almost enough on Freeze, and it is!
Oh, and then Rin is able to get the flash along with the Ignite, picks up the cleanse to boot, and the Lamb's Respite comes out just 1 second too late from Rourke, and CP Freeze gets killed in the mid lane.
Good Sir with a great rotation over, and that's the coordination. Now Remy looking for the ultimate. Here comes Nafe. Who does he try to turn on? Who does he try to get the Fear Beyond Death on? Because he's still got it up.
Yeah, and the spear misses, unfortunately, but they still have enough damage to be able to deal with this Urkot. And Remy, even with the Conqueror, cannot take down a full Thornmail Mundo right now.
Yeah, that is a big move. T26, unfortunately, you have no ADC in sight, so that's not going to be too much more. Look at that crits already on this one. Infinity Edge completed 2 CS off of a completed cull, and Spotify is absolutely letting loose. Moving down to the bottom side, and wow, Dawn at least able to secure the red buff, but wowzers, these plays are not going their way. They're losing advantage after advantage, and now they're getting pretty close to just losing the early game outright.
This is the power of comfort picks here returned already. We see
it's the power of something. Oh wait,
something.
Ping goes out. Here's a TP play. Here comes Remy.
Yeah, teleport is going to come in. Remy's going to try to find something to even the odds here. Spotify guest does have flash. Nicely done over the wall. But a good Sir was trying to come in, trying to save the day, but realizes that he came in a little too late, and he's going to have to burn his own flash. Thankfully for the side of Temporal Gaming, nobody dies. But Remy, exhausting that teleport, looking desperately for a play. They're going to continue going for this dive potentially as the minion wave is coming to crash in. They still have the fear from beyond death that they can get a target low. He's going to flash right onto a Spotify guest. Ultimate will not come out as he's already dead, but a kill under turret is going to go over to Spotify guest as he's able to trade one back under or a good Sir on the T26, I should say. Dive successful, I guess.
I mean, that was still a TP being blown there for a 1-for-1 trade, which is not what you want to see. Remy now not going to be able to roam on down for quite a while longer. Good Sir, you might want to get out of that one, but here comes Rin. That's almost another elimination!
Holy crap, what is that damage coming out from Rin? It's so massive on the Zoe, but he misses the Paddle Star, and it's not gonna, and there's not even a Lamb's Respite, but he doesn't even need it as Rin does miss, and he gets shut down here by Remy. Spotify guest even using the teleport to try to join up this fight. Rourke, somewhat critically low, doesn't have Lamb's Respite quite yet, but the rest of the members from Dawn Esports are coming in hot. Good Sir doesn't have Death from below either. He's gonna use
mid lane.
Be able to disengage mid lane. Nath and Sandwich are coming in now. The Ocean Dragon has been started up, but this could be secured for the side of Temporal Gaming. T26 is going critically low, doesn't have the ultimate to be able to give enough damage reduction, and he surely will get taken down. Spotify guess now having the reset. Flash over the wall from Rourke. Finally pops the Lamb's Respite, gets in the nick of time. CP Freeze looking for the flank. Members are getting low, they're not able to get into the Lamb's Respite. And look, Dawn Esports turning this fight around on its head. CP Freeze finally comes in. Doesn't have flash to be able to get over the wall, but Savage and Nath will live to tell the tale, but cannot say the same for the rest of Temporal Gaming.
That was a majestic ultimate from Kin. Lamb's Respite there. Went from giving Jinx the reset she needed to wipe the rest of the fight to turning the fight over perfectly. And the fact that they use it in that corridor over by Tribush means that nobody on the side of TPG could get into it to save their lives. That meant free damage, no responsibilities. Free's gonna die here anyway.
Christ!
That might actually be a one-for-one trade.
Soloing out Freeze right in the face of T26 and Rourke. There's no way that he's gonna live for that. He will be punished for his sins, but Rin just openly solely killing right in front of his teammates.
Wow, alright. So, yeah, he's kind of just knocking people down left, right, and that is the playmaking that TPG need to focus around. But they need to be doing so in a clean manner, because what they're getting back is still over to a scaling team. Zaya, off that last fight, 1-0-2 for Kanki. Doing very well for himself. Freeze still on that scaling pick on the rise. Needs a few more items before he can really be truly ready to play on the full 5-5 stage. And with Rourke up to top side of the map, and then a jungle advantage down to the bottom side with Herald, that should be pretty simply the first tower going on over, maybe a counterplay going up in the top lane with Remy and Rourke, but not going to be in time, and actually both sides may spawn fights.
Obscure barely doesn't land there. The slow was not enough, but now they're going to turn it around. CP Freeze is also here for the roam. Rourke was going to come in, might be able to cut off a good search escape path, but he will be able to get out safely. Cannot say the same for Spotify, I guess. 27 getting locked up by the bot lane of Donnie Sports.
Still hanging on around, and a little bit of an unfortunate move from Nave as he was ready to follow up on the bot lane play, and that might have been the deciding factor, but the aggression out of Spotify gets him, good sir. It's starting to wane, and the concentration potentially going a little bit too, and here comes Nave looking to just one-shot Rourke, and Rourke has nothing to stay alive this one. That's going to be a land of Spiteless Kindred going on down. CP Freeze just barely gets out of dodge. Now, oh, we've seen this one before.
Spear, pounce, gets the flash out, so he cannot continue with the oh man, Spotify Guest is able to get the death rocket, but it's not enough to be able to chunk CP Freeze and take him down. But he does burn flash. That's going to be valuable information for the side of Temporal Gaming.
Yeah, and now with everything kind of resetting, we have more towers falling for Temporal Gaming. This is the advantage that they've been looking for. Sandwich is still a monster in this top lane. The Mundo is working out very nicely. Very unkillable, very tanky, very damagey, the whole 9 yards that you could possibly ask. And with that, pushing out in the top lane, it is still just going to be coming down to Temporal Gaming. Can they keep making these picks? And now the difficulty for Dawn is you need to find ways to avoid the picks, engage on the members while not being seen, and that all starts the vision control. And I think a little bit more time's got to be spent on there, but Rourke may have found Spotify here alone. Who's going to win?
Rourke will come out on top. He's got the execution damage with that final proc of the Mounting Dread, and even with the flash from Spotify Guest 27. You can't escape autos, my friend. Unfortunate there for the Jinx. It's T26 potentially looking for another pick as the Bone Skewer does land with the spear, but there's still an Alistar there to be able to play field goal. Bubble comes over the wall, barely missing Kanki. The bot lane here, Donnie Sports, is playing so much with fire right now as the rest of Donnie Sports are collapsing onto each other.
Because they're in this weird in-between position where they don't want to take a fight yet. They either don't have the tools or they don't have the confidence that they'd win it, but they also can't just sit back and let themselves get poked. Nathan and Rennie really haven't gotten a chance to go full siege, and now this may be the engagement.
Oh, and Lance Respite is still available as they take down Nave. Super Mega Death Rocket is going to miss and not going to do any damage to the rest of Dawn Esports. But Nave going down is so terrible for the side of Temporal Gaming. That's a lot where a lot of your early game aggression snowball has been going. And surprisingly, this game, Nave gotten a lot of assists, but he hasn't had many kills to his name. He's doing well individually, but he still needs to be ahead of Rourke to be able to win this matchup.
And he still is that pressure point with the poke. And I think the biggest factor here for Temporal Gaming is the fact that they have a very fed Zoe as well. Rin is one-shotting people now with these Sleepy Time Trouble Bubbles and Paddlestar combinations, and if you keep that up, you're gonna keep winning. And realistically, I think the game now almost falls on the back of T26. Can you keep forcing these engagements? And so far, I don't think they have been on par. I think you almost at this point need to invest in engagement tools. I don't normally advocate for like a righteous glory on Alistar, but if there was ever a game, it would be this one. Because you just need to like smash time again. No point in building HP because you're just going to die anyway. Just get the fight started.
just like Hulk, baby. Hulk smash.
HP don't matter if you're HP don't matter if you never engage.
That's right.
Like my old pappy said, just kill him.
Just kill him for it.
Just kill him.
It's why I need CC when Death is the best CC here in game. Can't confirm as Temporal Gaming just having the positional advantage in the river is going to allow them to secure this Cloud Dragon. It's going to give them a little bit more movement speed across the map for these rotations, as we've seen how useful those can be when it comes to the mid later parts of the game.
Speaking of Alistar builds, what build out of a double cloth armor? That goes to Warden's Mail. What are you building with Warden's Mail? This could get interesting because he might just be going full tank Alistar, which means he's gonna have to use flashbaits to get in range. So, bit of an interesting draw here, but that would basically mean if he's gonna go for something, because I think he would build that into like a Randuin's Omen and look to play late game team fight. So that could be where Dawn are looking to. They're waiting to see if Kanki and Freeze can out damage, to see if Rourke can out damage. But at this point in time, you need to stop the bleed. This bleeding is pretty insane. Rourke, nice sidestepping, even slows Nave.
Yeah, and just right in the face of Nafe here. Not going to get the Mounting Dread mark procced, however, so Nafe will be able to live with a good amount of his health as they have to kite away back. But Sir has to be careful. He's going to get knocked up by the Alistar, and there's just no chance for him to be able to react with the flash or the heal. That's one member down. Rin looking over the wall, misses the paddle star, might get engaged right here. Traps are gonna dissuade and force their positioning outright, but Rin does have no way out of this one. He gets a lot of chunk damage onto Rourke, and now look at Spotify gets 27. He has a lot of Mega Death Rocket damage, but they're so critically low, but they're not quite dead yet. Savage looking for the flank, flushes in, throws the goblet to T26's head. Lambs just by being forced out here. This should be easy cleanup for Spotify Guest as he's running up down. He's got the reset. The ultimate from Zion's gonna come out. It's not gonna do much. Actually, it keeps Kanki alive, and CP Freeze that's coming in from the Realm Warp. He's gonna be able to clean up the mess, and Savage cannot find Kanki. He's gonna be able to live.
And that's pretty big, because PG still need to keep this game rolling. Spotify gets with a bit of poor positioning there at the end of the fight, thinking that they had already had the fight won by the time that Landris fight went down. Does mean he goes down, and that does mean you lose a chance to burn, you lose a chance to grab some towers, and that could be a huge turning point. And Freeze scaling up very nicely now. 7 kills as well onto Rourke, has silently been amassing a huge chunk of gold. 8.6 now has a lead over Nafe, which I don't have the stats, but I'm willing to wager is the first time he's done so before like the 30-minute mark in any game. And the main carries for TPG are starting to slow down. The poke damage at a Rin isn't as much. The poke damage at a Nafe isn't as much, and that might be the jumping off point where you can start to mount a comeback. And all the while as well, Kanki 3-0-5 still doing a fantastic job on the Xayah.
It isn't as much, and it's also, you have to give credit to the fact that Dawn Esports are doing a better job of dodging these projectiles, or maybe criticize the fact that the main poking utility tools from Rin and Nafe are not landing here. Rin has been missing a couple paddle stars as well, so he's playing super far forward now. He still doesn't have flash, but he's able to run away pretty damn fast, considering that he doesn't have any summoner spells on this Zoe.
Able to find something, and I think I've answered the question. It is going to be a Zeke's Herald, I would assume, is the build out from T26. That should combine with Null Magic for the first half, and then go into the Glacial Augment, and then come back also. Mystery solved one way or another, but still the rest of the team looking very much more on that damage aspect. Spellbinder now completed, so CP Freeze, when he hits his mark, when he hits his stride in the middle of his team fights, he should be chunking people out. The main question is always just going to be about control, and that means it does come down to whether or not Rourke hits the right ultimate there with the Lance Spike, because we saw before in the bot lane try, right ultimate can easily win the fight, and at this point in the game, winning the fight means a lot, because that's a Herald, that's a Nex, and not even that's a Nexus just yet, but that is a inhibitor, and it's a chance for Dawn Esports to stay alive in this series. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, undefeated, never lost a series in this season, coming back from a huge disappointment a few seasons before, not even finishing the season as a team. Now they are on the brink of getting eliminated from the championship finals that they seemed destined for. And on the other side, Temporal Gaming may just be looking to get the greatest robbery of all time. We're underdogs from the semifinals, and now looking to be the underdog in the finals. One more fight could be what separates them from the title.
It all comes down to potentially this game and next game if Dawn Esports are able to bring it back here against Temporal Gaming. And Nate,
That just doesn't do damage anymore.
oh man.
Look, even you can see the prioritization going for the... and this is where actually you have some very big, maybe misbuild. Lichbane onto Nidalee is really good when you're going, when you have a huge advantage when you can jump in and execute, but it doesn't give you much on your Q damage. So it is hoping that you knock down low enough, but here could be the smite fight goes over to Rourke, and here could be the team fight as well. Freeze on the side.
They still have Lancer Spite here if they need it. They're portaling back into the jungle. They don't want to fight, extend to fight too much right now. Realm Warp is going to come out, saves 2 members, but that splits off some people, and that's going to leave Remy out to dry, and Rourke has to walk out of the Lancer Spite. He's not going to be able to get the heal, but a good Sir does find the killing blow. Looks for the death from below. Is going to find some cow to be able to cake down. A double kill coming in for a good Sir. Shutdown coming out from Nate onto Kanky. Huge shutdown goals coming in, and that's the full ace for Temporal Gaming.
I don't have words for what that fight was from Dawn. Like, if you look up indecisiveness in the dictionary, that is going to be the caption for you. Because what happened was, it seemed like there was a miscommunication about whether you want to take a fight in favor for Dawn, whether you want to give it up now that you got the Dragon. And they did this thing, and I've seen a lot of competitive games, so I see this all the time with teams that aren't on the same page communication-wise. One person takes a step forward, everyone takes a step forward, and then you run back again. But then somebody else takes that step forward, so you think you're turning, so everyone takes that step forward. And as they're doing that, it gives time for TPG to poke them down, to run them down, and most importantly, kill them dead. And now that they're dead, Baron Buff is also dead, and that's going to be potentially what destroys and what knocks Dawn out finally from the Champions League finals here. Game number 4. Dawn are on the ropes.
And we've seen how critical a Baron buff can be to either team once they finally acquire it. It allows them to take down these structures so easily, so handedly. And a lot of the times, a lot of the games have been stalled up because neither team were able to get that objective, but now the buff is on the side of Temporal Gaming. If these next few skirmishes, or if they can set up these siege situations to be successful, poke out key members that would be defending the turrets from collapsing, this could be the next few steps that allows Temporal Gaming to finally drive the last nails in the coffin for Dawn Esports.
So that is the big thing, though. There's still a lot of base left to get through. Every single tier 2 is still available. Every single inhibitor is still up and ready to go. And that means that if you want to kill Dawn, you have to win another of these fights. I think that Dawn, given what happened last fight, and given the discipline that they have been able to show from time to time, they know what they did wrong last time. They hesitated too long, and they just gave up the fight. You can't expect Dawn to do that again. They have to be playing this a lot smarter. And if they do, there may still be hope left, but the poke is starting to rain on Annie. The split push is going even heavier. You need to decide whether you engage on this Mundo or you engage on everyone else. There is no in-between here. The only in-between is losing the Nexus.
And the more in between, the more hesitant they are, as they're just going to lose members from the poke and the pick potential. Good Sir misses the death from below. He's actually going to get turned down here. The Lamb's fight is so crucial. It saves Remy's life. But for how long? That is the question. Nate is still going to be surviving at Temporal Gaming. They take it down Rourke, and they take it down Remy. Kanky will fall. It's just CP Freeze and T26 against 3 members of Temporal Gaming. If they can turn this around, they can survive and prevent the game from ending. But if Temporal Gaming take down T26, CP Freeze, the last member is going to go down with 3 members shown. This surely should be Temporal Gaming's title to claim.
And it is merely just a formality at this point, as with 3 members available in 2 insane team fight wins, Temporal Gaming will tip the tables once again and be your Champions League champions. What a series.
Mr. Rando Joe, our lovely stream producer, I would like for you to pull up the picture of the predictions.
Oh, immediately going to this, I see.
Yeah.
It's not, of course, Temporal Gaming doesn't matter here. It's all about the predictions, but either way. In the meantime, I'll get a quick word in, but Temporal Gaming, that I think game number one was definitely showing the weaknesses of Temporal, the strength of Dawn, the cohesive unit. But Temporal Gaming, if there's one thing I can say from game 2, 3, and 4, they were just not afraid. They were a team that showed up to a match knowing they could very much win it. They didn't care whether the underdogs or not. They had faith in Nafi and the rest of the squad, and God, they did fantastically.
It is definitely a huge pleasure to be able to see such strong adaptation from Temporal Gaming after that, honestly, to put it blunt, pretty disastrous game one, and that's where Dawn Esports was able to take control of that first win. But once they made those small adjustments, the being able to play more cleanly on the execution of their early game aggression, that's when Dawn Esports started to buckle under pressure. And then game three was probably the closest game out of this entire series, but it all came down to that TP decision by CP Freeze to go behind the lines. And people on both sides, Dawn Esports, were confused and scattered about where to go, which side of the flank to target. And they after losing the fight completely off of that, maybe you can say that Dawn Esports, they just couldn't come back mentally from there because they had a strong showing in this early game, especially Rourke, who decided to finally take off the reins of the tank role duty and put on the reins of a carry player. And he did a pretty damn good job individually, but then just team decisions around that dragon, not backing up as a 5-man unit, letting Remy die, letting Rourke die. You go back on these decisions, and do you credit to just tilt, or do you credit to choking, or do you credit to actual outplay?
I think that, well, it's always whenever there's a missed decision, it's a two-part thing. Not only does one team have to make a mistake, the other team has to notice it and act upon it. So anytime someone messes up, that means somebody else has, noticed it, gone for it, benefited. We all make mistakes at times, but I think a lot of where Dawn fell down was down to that decision making. I think it was Dawn almost limiting themselves at some points, because I think that this Temporal was really the first team that held their own not only in the early game to them, but weren't making the mistakes that Dawn normally uses to win the game. Because Dawn are a very conservative team. They're very, we're going to play our style and we're going to wait till you mess up and boom, we're going to win the game. Temporal was the first team that not only punched them in the face in the early game, but didn't give them that opportunity at least past game number one. And I think that's where Dawn started to show cracks. And I think it was just hammering those down, the marathon of a series that we've been through over the last about 3.5 hours, that Temporal Gaming just came out the better team.
Absolutely. And guys, we will be doing a quick interview with one of the winners here from Temporal Gaming, but we just need a couple minutes. We'll be cutting to a really short intermission. I promise, do not turn off the browser. If you want to hear from the winners of Risen Champs Finals Spring 2019, we'll be right back in just a couple minutes. And ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Thank you so much for your patience on that one. We are here with Nafe, not only one of the few winners of Temporal Gaming in this series, but also our MVP of the series here for that best of 5. Nafe, I don't want to ask the typical, how do you feel? Because I think we all know how you could potentially feel. But what was your reaction as you guys were able to close out that Nexus on that last game?
Wow. Well, coming in to the match, we knew that I think Dom was undefeated before this, right? Yeah, so I knew they were like a super strong team. I actually got matched with Remy in solo queue like a few days ago, and it was funny. He was on Yasuo and I was on Nidalee, and we were like losing the game early, and then we both like popped off, and I just knew like he was a super good player, and the rest of his team was definitely ready to play. And I just think that we played better, to say it shortly. I just think that they didn't really have an answer to our aggressive early play, so we just came in. I don't know why they pick Sejuani every game, to be honest, but we just came in and they couldn't keep up with us early, and we just misplayed it the first game where we got too nervous and anxious,
Right.
and we were just doing a lot of stuff, and we died for it and lost. But
I want to kind of actually take us back to that point, because that was a big turning point after game 1. I think we're all thinking, Dawn are the big boys on campus.
yeah,
But what like words were shared with the team? What was the difference you guys made really between games 1 and 2 that made the difference?
so we had like a super strong early game, right? And I think it was like, I don't exactly remember. It was like we had like 6 kills or something, and they had like 1 or 2, and we were just like everywhere we went, we were just killing them. And then their Pike was just starting to like roam everywhere and just shut everything we were trying to do down. And so we had like a talk after the game where we came away with the fact that Pike has to be higher priority in the game, and we just reminded ourselves that it was best of 5 and not like it wasn't best of 3. It's not best of 1. It's best of 5, and we had good things going on in that game, and we just had to like realize that we had to rein it in a little bit. And once we found that out, we were able to not throw any of our other early game leads.
Okay, fair enough. And looking at the past, the present, how you're feeling, maybe look to the future here. Of course, winning Champions League. I do believe this is the first year for Temporal Gaming, or the first season for Temporal Gaming, correct?
Yeah.
Or in this championship, or in this.
Yeah.
You guys came in here. You guys won in your first year. What's next up on the agenda? Because as I'm sure no one is unaware at this point, like a bunch of stuff coming to amateur is soon. What are your guys' vision for what the next few months look like?
Win Worlds 2019.
Fair enough. All right. Straightforward, I see.
2020.
Easy.
2020. No, I'm actually not sure what's planned next. I'm not sure if Zenzway is gonna have us just get like right back into things or what. I'm not sure what he's got planned, but whatever it is, we're gonna go in hard.
Yeah. Are there any other leagues that Temporal Gaming is signed up to play for or is applying to play for?
I'm not entirely sure. I'm not the best at reading our Discord channel, so I'm generally pretty surprised by these things, but yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And then
Risen's been our main focus,
okay.
so.
Okay. So kind of as we do wrap things up here, of course, congratulations are always in order. For any potential either fans of you guys or people maybe you picked up a few fans tonight, where can people go ahead and keep up with what Temporal Gaming is doing?
People can follow our Twitch channel, which is
Poggers.
something like Temporal Gaming X or something like
Something
that.
along the lines of Temporal Gaming.
What?
Ask my owner. Bro, I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's something like that.
All right. Well, just to kind of fill in
I
here.
think we have a Twitter somewhere.
Yeah, it's Temporal Gaming X, maybe to get you a quick spot in here, but
They can. My coach just said they can join our Discord, become Temporal Gaming fans officially.
the master of plugs I see here. The master of
for
LinkedIn
sure.
and the master of marketing. It's a 2-for-1 deal.
Oh yeah.
But on top of that, before we send you off here, send you hopefully to some very well-deserved celebration with the teammates. Is there anything you'd like to say to anyone watching at home rooting for you guys in the end?
Thanks for rooting me on. I mean, I actually had a ton of support from all my friends and family. That was like they just did way more than they had to. So thanks to all them. And thanks for my teammates.
Hell.
Teammates played super good. They're way too good. I got hard carried.
Humble and modest. Awesome.
Well, humble as always. Thank you, Nave. We're going to send you, of course, back to your teammates. Best of luck in the future, and should be good for now.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
And ladies and gentlemen, that will be us for tonight's broadcast of Risen Champions League Finals here on twitch.tv/Risen_esports. It has been a hell of a season. We have so many things to look forward to as we get ready for Risen 2019 Summer Split. Definitely a lot of things that we want to take into account as we change some things around. If you are already part of the Risen Esports Discord, please, we will be having a feedback survey, not only for the players, but any of the viewers who were keeping up with the season, to things that we should change or things to consider, as we always want to improve the quality of our broadcasts and our league as well. And other than that, it has been a huge pleasure to cover this exciting series with all of you guys. My name is Rafa, joined here by Rando Joe, our lovely stream producer, and my wonderful co-caster in return. We had such a fun time, guys. Thank you so much. Have a good night.